All right, guys. So this is attempt number 2 for the Mike Midweek Wednesday show. Yesterday we tried to do this, and at the second that we hit go, YouTube goes down, and then we didn't know when it was coming back. So we're like, we'll just do it again tomorrow. So for anybody who missed it, this is the Midweek show. I am Mike Killy. I'm joined by Mike Restano, Bonzo1273 on Twitter. You guys want to follow him there? Mike, I know we had about a 8-minute video yesterday, but how are you doing from then till now?
I'm doing well. Yesterday was an adventure to say the least. That's pretty bizarre. Like all of YouTube down for like an hour. It was funny, like looking at the tweets and other social media avenues. You know, people just like freaking out, like, "Oh my god, what am I supposed to do?"
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was like, why is there nobody here? I was like, there's no one here, and I can't even see the stream. The stream is like just a circle with the black box with the circle around it. I was like, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the Browns being back from the bye. We got everybody seems to be back practicing, at least in limited fashion, and we're looking really healthy for the first time in a really long time, other than Mr. Beckham Jr.
Yep.
And then on the Texans side, my dad sent me a message early this morning. It looks like David Johnson's going to be held out for concussion. That means Duke Johnson Jr. is going to be the starting running back for the Texans. The job that he's wanted so badly for so long. He finally gets it. He gets to come back to Cleveland and possibly stick it to us. How are you feeling about that?
You know, I'm about to say something, and hopefully it won't come back to bite me. But Duke Johnson, who I guess really is. I mean, he wanted out.
Yep.
He essentially begged to get out. He got out, and what he thought he was going to find on the other side, and what he actually found, as you know, and everybody in the chat knows, is that's not how it worked out for him. So, hey, I don't wish ill will on anyone. I hope he is successful, just not on Sunday. And I not too worried about good old Duke coming back. But
yeah, same here. I want to give some shout outs to some guys in the chat. Alex Massimiani, Beast Grills, Browns fan 77. My sister Jennifer Marshall is in there with the kids who are tuning in. Cleveland BCI, Derek Jones. We got some of the Patreon guys in there, so I just want to say hi to everybody, especially Derek, longtime Patreon supporter and friend of the show. I agree. I think with Duke Johnson, he was in one of those situations. Mario was going on. He was in one of those situations where he was young. He thought he wanted to get on the field. He saw us bring in Kareem Hunt, and he's like, if they believed in me, they wouldn't bring in a guy like that. And that's the unfortunate thing for him. But then he goes to the Texans and he realizes that unfortunately he's a backup running back. He's an RB2 in this league. Maybe even third down back. God forbid. Matty B, Kid Wilson, what's going on, dude? So yeah, it's like we get to see Duke Johnson, and I'm honestly much happier than seeing David Johnson back there. But as my dad was actually just texting me a minute ago that it's going to be really rainy and cold, and you were mentioning it's going to be windy, so it's going to be another kind of nasty game for us.
Yep.
So buckle up, guys. I hope it's not going to be a situation like the Raiders. I called the Raiders game and I was like, oh, this desert team's coming to Cleveland. We're gonna have the opportunity to really leverage the weather and the home field advantage, and man, they just didn't even ever let us touch the ball. No. And now we got this dome team coming in from warm weather Texas, and so we'll see. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on just from the weather and what we can expect from that?
Well, I mean, it looks like it's going to be another one of those, ground and pound. But I mean, that's what we thought was going to happen, with the Raiders game. And I mean, we said it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, but for me, that game still, looms large in a sense of I still believed then that was a must-win game. I still believe it today that was a must-win game. I mean, you look at the tale of two teams. And I know we're only halfway through and what have you, but I mean, you look at the playoff picture. The Raiders are in right now, and we are 8th, 9th, something like that. I mean, behind.
We're that far back?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It's the Dolphins are 7. I'm sorry, the Dolphins are 7. The Raiders are the first team out that would bump in for if one of these guys lost anytime. And again, it's early, but yeah, I mean we're literally.
So I'm looking at the standings right now. You've got, just taking the division leaders out of the picture.
Yep.
You've got 5-3 Dolphins, 5-3 Raiders, 6-2 Ravens, 5-3 Browns, 5-3 Colts. So wouldn't it be Browns, Ravens, Raiders, Dolphins?
Right now, as it sits, it's as far as the wild cards go.
Yes.
The first wild card is the Ravens. Second wild card is the Colts. And the third wild card is the Dolphins. And we are right now, if you're looking at, and I'm looking at CBS Sports that put this out, I think yesterday, I believe. Let me take a peek.
I just can't be
yesterday
right.
morning.
So there's 3 wild cards, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it should be the Ravens, the Raiders, and either us or the Dolphins.
Yeah,
we beat
Ravens,
the Colts.
They are, let me see. We right now have a 38.3% chance of making it into.
I just don't understand that. Last week we were 75%, and now we're 38. We dropped in half.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Raiders
are 43.3% chance of making it. Yeah, again, this is an article on.
I don't get that.
On CBS Sports, but
I don't think I'm buying that. To be honest, I just think that's weird.
Yeah, and I mean they very well. I mean, look, if you look at the next 3 games, and you and I have talked about it, and we talked about it on here. Everybody is really loose with the we have an extremely easy schedule coming up, etc. But you look at, this is not going to be a cakewalk on Sunday, but they should win. But it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the Eagles coming to town, and the Eagles are starting to get healthy. Miles Sanders is back this week. Wentz has been playing a little bit better. You've got the kid at receiver, the rookie. I think he's a rookie. Fulgham, I think his name is. Mm-hmm. And I believe Ertz will be back for our game. So the Eagles are getting healthy. So I mean it, and then you got the Jaguars after that, and that I mean that kid is rushing. I mean he's phenomenal. That kid at running back. So I mean against our defense, if the defense that shows up on Sunday is the same defense that we've seen, the first half of the year, which I mean, how much can you possibly do over a bye? It didn't sound like they were really going to switch up the personnel too much, but with that being said, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that I'm worried about the next 3 games, but it all starts on Sunday. I mean, they have to. And look, if they lose on Sunday, in the rain again, in the cold, in the wind, to a team that plays down in Houston, Texas, I don't know what to say.
Who's 2-6 as well. I mean,
yeah.
They are statistically worse than the Bengals right now.
Correct.
They just beat the Jaguars barely this last weekend in Florida, so it was an away game.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at the Texans, which everybody thought the Texans were a shoe-in playoff team.
Yeah.
This is one of the big upsets for the season. And maybe the Patriots being a little bit off. The Dolphins being as good as they are, that's definitely a surprise.
Yeah.
Us being 5-3 is a bit of a surprise, but looking at this week against the Texans and this next couple of games, is going to determine, like, these next, and it started after the Bengals game. So the Bengals game was still what I considered the first half. Yep. This meat of these 4 games, these 4 out of division games, is really going to determine the season. So we lost the first one to the Raiders. Now we have the Texans and the Eagles and the Jaguars, right?
And then look at the next 2 games after that.
So we got to go to Tennessee, who just got smacked around by the Bengals, so they can be beat. The Tennessee Titans can be beat. The Ravens have to come to us. Then we have 2 softer games in New York. Boom, boom. Yep. And then the Steelers. Now here's my biggest fear, is that we end up losing like the next 2, right? And so now we're 5-5 going into Jags, Titans, Ravens, right? Really the back half of the season. And then it's like every game is must win, right? Because and it's almost like we could be a bit deflated, but we won't even be close to mathematically out of it.
No.
So those 5 games that we won in the first half is just, thank God we got those 5 wins. And that Colts game, I'm telling you right now, the Colts game is a quality win. The second Bengals win was a quality win. Right? The first time we faced them, we beat them and then just kind of let them score some points at the end. But that second Bengals win, when Baker came down and just willed us to a victory with 1 minute and 6 seconds, that everybody just crapped on him. It's just the Bengals. It's nothing. Everybody crapped on him.
No, it was a tough win, because I mean they were also fighting adversity early, losing OBJ. So I mean it did say a lot about. But here's the thing: is you look at a game like that, and you're absolutely 100% correct. But you look at that and you go, oh man, like what a great win. Mm-hmm. They maybe they've turned the tide. Look at this momentum. They really put it together. And then they come home and they give us that performance before the bye week.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot of answers for that for this last game. I mean, I thought a lot about it. It's not like we were getting destroyed. If you look at the end of the third quarter, it's tied 6-6. So it's a game we just couldn't close, and it's because we just didn't touch the damn ball. I don't expect that to happen against the Texans. If nothing else, let's say it is rainy and ugly again, so then it's 2 weeks in a row. We should be able to adapt to that a little bit. You'd hope. We're also going to have the big 1-2 punch back of Absolutely. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, which for all intents and purposes was what this season was designed to run through. Those 2 guys with Wyatt Teller coming back. The statistically, or PFF, was he like number 1 or number 2?
He number 1. And did you see that stat, Mike? I think I saw it yesterday, but with Wyatt Teller, 8 rushing touchdowns. Without Wyatt Teller, a goose egg.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that was wild.
That is scary. But it goes to show how good this offensive line is. With Wills currently, give or take, the best tackle out there. I know Wirfs is playing pretty well as well, but he's right there. I mean, it's we didn't whiff on Wills, right?
Good kid. Yeah.
Conklin's doing all right as well. Batonio's Batonio. Shredder's Shredder.
Some things.
Yeah, and he's just I guess a touch banged up. He was limited practice. Treader's been banged up. We didn't even think he was going to go for his game. Yeah, he's been able to push through.
Yep.
And then the big surprise this year was the emergence of Wyatt Teller, who is a Pro Bowl at this point. I think he's a Pro Bowl offensive lineman. He just has to stay healthy for the rest of the year and play like he played in the beginning, and he's there.
Yep.
Right? So I don't expect us to have. I think that game that we played against the Raiders is going to be the one that we're going to look back on and go, man, were we just asleep that game? Like, what happened?
We essentially were.
Yeah, and then our defense just couldn't get off the damn field. It was just we couldn't stop them. We couldn't stop them on third down or fourth down. and then we couldn't convert a third down to save our life. So in the NFL and oftentimes in football in general, that stat of third down conversion is the key key secondary statistic other than points.
Right.
That's a big one, and that was the one thing that as Browns fans over the last 20 years we've been consistently experiencing, not being able to convert. And then watching these teams at third and 6, 3rd and 5 convert every time like they weren't even trying. And that's what the Raiders did. The Raiders, anytime they had the ball that was even close, I think we even had them at 3rd and 18 one time, and they still got it.
That was on that. That might have been that touchdown drive. To be honest with you, I think it was.
So we got to have a couple things go our way. I think we have to have the breaks go our way. The turnover gods turn their back to us. Finally came back down to earth. Nick Chubb is Nick and Kareem Hunt are both really good in terms of protecting the ball. But if you remember there was the game last year, the New England game, where Nick Chubb had that huge run and then got the ball snapped out of his hands. And that essentially, when you have drives like that and you lose the ball, and those are point scoring drives, it's really hard to come back from that. So we have to stay on the field. We got to score points. We got to run the ball, and the defense has got to show up.
And he's going to play, but I didn't notice. Did they activate Chubb yet, or the last time I checked, they still hadn't activated him?
What? I don't know if you formally have.
Yeah, I don't think
he's playing. Have.
Yeah, he is, and I think they were saying today that he shed the knee brace too, so he's ready. He's ready to go.
I saw a tweet with him, just jumping through the cones and then, just doing one of those drills, and that little tiny hop that looks like he's just hopping on air. It's still there.
Jump step. Oh, yeah.
It's still there. I mean, that is. I think you were the one who pointed that out. That little hop that he has. That our other running backs, there wasn't a single, not a single one, had that. Yeah. Trent Richardson didn't have it. Really, nobody had. I've never seen a running back do what Nick Chubb does. So the fire and the ice are back this week, which is exciting. And this is the Browns that we were promised to this roster, albeit without OBJ, unfortunately, who had a successful surgery the other day. I saw it maybe yesterday.
Yeah, 2 days. Yeah, was it yesterday? You know what? I'll be honest with you, Mike. I didn't even realize it was Thursday. This has been a really bizarre week.
Yeah, well, it was weird because this should have been us yesterday.
Right.
Thanks to you two for not being there for us. But yeah, I think this is getting into crunch time. And the nice thing about what we've seen so far this year is that this is a team that we can honestly say we are beating the teams we were supposed to beat. Right? The Bengals, the Redskins, I guess you could say the Cowboys, maybe. But at the time we played the Dak Cowboys, not the JMU quarterback Cowboys, right?
Well, you know what? Though we might have lost to the non-Dak Cowboys. That's sort of how.
Yeah, maybe
how it usually works around here, but at least we don't have to worry about that. But
well, the only thing I would say about that Raiders game, it wasn't like they put up 40 points or 38 points like the Ravens and Steelers did, where it was just a humiliation. It was a close game. We just couldn't convert in the fourth quarter because we just never touched the ball.
And I mean, it seems like a while ago, but we talked about it on the last show. But I mean, the tale of that game was, besides the terrible defensive play, was drop balls. So
yeah, drop passes kill drives, and when they hit you right in the hands, and Njoku and Jarvis and Kareem Hunt and Harrison Bryant fumbling, and it was just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I don't expect that to happen. We have too much talent on this team to have fundamental errors, like unforced fundamental errors like that happening. So if we want to count that as our mulligan and we go, okay, fine, instead of being an amazing 6-2, we're a respectable 5-3 and still very much in the hunt. It's so unfortunate if you look at the standings, because honestly, this is probably the hardest division in football. If I look, statistically, this is the hardest division in football. And this is just the way it's going to be as Browns fans. We finally have a team. We finally have an exciting roster, a new head coach who looks like he's potentially the real deal. I also, I was reflecting a little bit on Stefanski, because you think back to all the Browns coaches, and I don't have to name them all, but there hasn't been a single one that has come out of the box swinging real hard and winning games and putting us in a position not to have this really long shot outside chance like Greg Williams did, or, a house of cards type team like Butch Davis did.
Yeah.
This is a team that's coming out swinging hard, and I believe in this guy. I didn't believe in Romeo Crennel, even though we went 10-6. I still didn't believe in him.
He's coming home.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He is coming home. This is going to be Romeo's homecoming as well.
And God bless him. I mean, what is he, 70 something?
Yeah, he's in his 70s.
Yeah. God bless
Hell, he
him.
could run for president.
Yeah.
And I do have fond memories of that one year with Romeo. I think we all do.
Yeah,
It was
2007, right? Was it 7 or 8?
2007. That was the year that I got married.
God,
and I watched every game. My dad and I watched every game that season. And
you and I talked about that. Yeah, we had, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about that. You and I. It was that was the year that you thought, oh my God, like not only do we have a real team, but like we've arrived now. The Browns are back. Now we're going to start seeing, building off of that. What were we, 10-6 that year or whatever it was?
Yep.
We just barely missed the playoffs. I believe it was that Bills game that cost us that year. But
which you could also say the Bengals game that
was a crush.
We lost to a bad Bengals team.
Yeah, but it's funny because I look back to that year. It's like the lost year, because that, to all of us, that was the year that we thought, all right, now we're going to be
we had a lot of talent
again.
We had a lot of talent on that team. Braylon, Winslow,
Jamal Lewis was on that team.
The old Jamal Lewis. I want to say, was it Jerome Harrison? Or
he was on that team, I believe. And you know how I remember this? I was in a fantasy football league years ago, and it's the one league that I could never freaking win. I was always the bridesmaid, but they had an opening, and my brother was like, he'd always been hounding me, hey, is there an open at league? And finally there was no open. So I said, yeah, come, I'll get you in. Long story short, I got him in, and we were in, I can't remember if that would have equated to the semifinal or the final. Regardless, I was playing him, and he picked up Jerome Harrison the week before. Remember Jerome Harrison had that 260-yard rushing game with like he won the championship that year. And that league folded, and I never won. He was in the league for 2 years. He won the championship. As you could tell, I'm still bitter about this.
Jerome Harrison was an interesting guy because interesting story. When I met him, he was friends with some of the guys in South Florida. Like, so there's a bunch of guys in South Florida who have like charity events every year. Mm-hmm. And so Brandon Flowers, who used to be a defensive back for the Chiefs, right?
Chiefs, yep.
And he was a Virginia Tech guy as well. So I would go to his it was like a charity bowling event every year. It was just like always something different every year. Mm-hmm. And then David Clowney had one. Is another. I don't know if Clowney played too much in the NFL, but he was a Virginia Tech guy, and he's friends with all those guys because they all went to high school together in Miami. And so they would have these charity events. And when I would go out there, like Montario Hardesty was there one time. I met him, and then Jerome Harrison was there. And so when I saw I was talking to Brandon Flowers. I was like, "Hey, are there any Browns players here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think Jerome Harrison's here." I was like, "No way!" I was like, "Oh, can you tell me which lane he's in or tell me where he is. So he did. And I went over. I was like, hey, Jerome. I was like, I'm a huge Browns fan. I love what you did. I remember that game where you went for over 200. We were going nuts. And I just want to say, on behalf of all Browns fans, how disappointed we are that we didn't give you, a real shot to be the guy. And I was like, do you know? I was like, was there something that happened? Was there a reason? He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, they just didn't believe in me and they never gave me a shot. And I played my heart out for the Browns. I loved playing on the Browns. And I was like, I was really hoping that it was going to be something. And then when I blew up for that one game, it was awesome. And he was like, I don't know. He was like, I don't know. And then he's just a really nice guy. We only got to talk for like, honestly, a minute. And he's like, I got to run, man. And I was like, no problem. And then shortly after, he got diagnosed with a brain tumor.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And he's still around because I'm looking. It says he's still walking years after brain tumor diagnosis. That was in 2018.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I mean, and his Wikipedia page doesn't say that anything bad has happened. So Jerome Harrison, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's funny. I just I didn't realize that Freddie Kitchens was joined the show.
Yeah, Freddie's in chat.
Freddie's in chat.
Did you believe in me? And here's the interesting thing. I wanted to believe in Freddie Kitchens. I wanted to believe in him so bad.
Does anybody does anybody want to purchase a once used Dog Pound sweatshirt? I have the Freddie Kitchens special that I wore once, and then the debacle happened, and it's buried in my sweatshirt collection somewhere. I'm like, man, I got to get rid of that thing. It's bad luck.
Was it the one he didn't like wear it or anything, right? This is just one that you bought that was like the one that he used to wear?
I just bought it. Hey, this is for Zupan.
There it is, PS3.
That's that's one of my drink coasters.
That was so the funny thing about that Madden cover. So I was working for an ad agency back in the day, and right around that same time, and we had the Florida Panthers hockey team was one of our accounts. I was tweeting for the Florida Panthers and everything, and EA just thought it was an awesome idea because social media was kind of just becoming a thing. Twitter was kind of coming alive at that point, so they're like, let's just ask the fans who they want to have on the cover of these things. And I don't think they realized how powerful Brown's Twitter was at that point, because it was really Brown's Twitter that put Peyton Hillis on that cover. Yeah. Just because EA didn't really know what they were doing back in the day and just allowed people to tweet stuff. But it's weird. I think Hillis has his own like podcast now or something.
Yeah, he does. I know he was sort of making a quote unquote Cleveland comeback, if you will. I did see that on Twitter, but I actually, as a matter of fact, I think I followed him, but I haven't seen one tweet, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
He tweets a lot during the games, and he's got some opinions, but I think with the Browns fans, I think a lot of the Browns fans still have kind of a weird taste in their mouth with how it ended with him.
Yeah, the whole wedding thing.
He had such a big was he just like sick a couple of games?
I think, quote unquote sick. I don't think if memory serves me, he was looking for a deal.
Yes,
and it didn't look like the negotiations rather were going the way he wanted to, and then the next thing you know, he didn't feel good, and then he had that wedding, and
it just didn't work out the way that I wanted him to get paid. I loved him. Yeah. I saw him play. They came down and played the Dolphins. My dad and I went to that game, and he just willed us to victory. I mean, he was one of those guys who, for all intents and purposes, he was a fullback.
Yeah.
And we gave him the ball, and he just used to hammer it. So,
totally off the subject. And
okay.
And it's football related. I was just thinking about it.
Okay.
Could you imagine if, and I know it didn't work out for him in Atlanta, but he's a former first round pick. He's young. If he gets things together, I think he's going to be a very, very, very solid player. And the fact that Schefter even reported that the Browns had put in a claim and the Bengals snagged him before us, I would have loved to seen McKinley in a depth role for us on the defensive line. I mean, he could have.
Was he the D tackle?
Yeah, the D end.
The end, okay.
Yeah, I would have liked to. That would have been a great depth pickup. And like I said, I mean, if he's had some issues, but talent wise, if he could put it together with that talent that he has, I mean, that very well. That's going to be boom or bust for the Bengals. He's either going to be an issue for us for the next X amount of years, or he's not going to get it together and he'll fizzle out. But I mean, what that quality guy for nothing the Bengals got.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like everybody can seem to do that.
Yeah,
but us.
Well, it's funny though, Mike, is and when I saw that happen, the first thing that came to my mind is, I always feel like we're always a day late and a dollar short. And what I mean by that is, when the Andrew Lucks of the world, and the Peyton Mannings of the world are, the surefire number one pick, we always found a way to just be good enough that, we couldn't sniff one. We were what, 5 or 6 or 7. And, I hope Baker's the guy, but it's the same thing with his draft. Like, we finally get the number one pick, and there was no surefire, quote unquote Hall of Famer type of guy. And I sort of add this to that category, because in any other year we suck so bad that we put a claim in and he's ours, but we just don't, and I mean, we're on the upswing, and I'm excited and I'm happy about it. But just from that, the day late kind of thing, like, of course, you know what I mean? It just goes along with the history of always being so close to getting something and not being able to. But
yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be an interesting year too, because you got Trevor Lawrence, you got Justin Fields coming out, and then you got that kid from Florida too, who's just lights out. So I mean, there's
your dad.
Yeah, my dad's in the. John Dorsey's also in the chat, apparently.
You know what? I just saw that. I mean, we got the whole crew.
It's like Freddie Kitchens left, and now John Dorsey's there. I don't know what's going on.
If Greg Williams comes in, I'm going to stand back there somewhere about 30 yards.
Just so he doesn't put a bounty on you?
Yeah.
Well, how interesting would it be now for this upcoming season, right? Let's say you're 1-2, because the Jets probably don't really need a quarterback at this point. If they want to go with Darnold, I don't think Darnold's that bad. I mean, he might not be the answer, but he's not that bad, right? If you could take Darnold and build around him, it's not a bad thing. But if they lose every game this year, I think they're probably just gonna fire the coach and just do a complete rebuild with starting over with a brand new quarterback and everything. And
what's funny is I before the Jet Patriot game, I would have agreed with you on that. But seeing Flacco in there, I mean, how old is Flacco? 38, 39? I mean,
Yeah.
He's got to be. And I mean, he made the Jets offense look competent.
Yeah.
So then you wonder, I don't know about Darnold. I think that, and again, no knock on Baker. I hope he's the guy. We'll see what kind of, what kind of progression we get, the rest of the way. But I think, we dodged that bullet, because I don't think Darnold would. I think if Darnold would have wound up on this team, he might have went the way of Josh Rosen on somebody's practice squad.
I mean, I think a lot of it too comes down to like the stability factor. You put Lamar Jackson in a very stable organization and a very stable thing, and they didn't try to turn Lamar Jackson into Joe Flacco 2.0. They let him be him.
Yeah.
Same thing in Buffalo. They let Josh Allen be Josh Allen. They didn't force him to be something he's not. They let him grow a little bit. And because he's just a monster, from a body size perspective, he's going to do really well in the NFL. They just his question marks were the accuracy and the competition. I guess that level, could he handle it? And he's done really well with it. But we couldn't have taken either of those guys at number one. I think
no.
And they wouldn't have made it through Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams, and Freddie Kitchen. They wouldn't have made it through that. So imagine if you take Baker Mayfield and put him on the Ravens or something like that. I think he probably, like, the same thing with Roethlisberger. You look at Roethlisberger's first couple of years in the league, he wasn't asked to do anything else other than be a game manager, maybe throw a touchdown a game. If he's lucky, he got two. He didn't like the game. Nobody took him in fantasy.
No,
nobody wanted it for anything.
For years, yeah.
He still really did. He had one or two competent fantasy seasons.
Yeah,
right?
He's still on the wire. Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody wants it, and because he's just inconsistent.
Yeah.
And yet people are looking at him as a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Now,
right?
Did you find it interesting this week about? Did you see the why can't I? Rich Eisen and Lamar interview?
I did not.
Did you hear that? So essentially, the long and the short of it is because Eisen was just talking about, it's been a little bit tougher, on the offense recently, etc. And Lamar pretty much came out and he sounded worried and basically was saying, the other team's calling out their plays at the line of scrimmage and essentially when Eisen asked him, well, what are you guys going to do about that or whatever? And he was like, oh, coach has to, hopefully the coach, they'll start making some adjustments at halftime. I don't know why he went to like specific, like in-game scenario. Like,
yeah,
instead of like, hey, I hope they're doing something right now on, I think it was Monday was the interview, maybe, or Tuesday. But I found that very interesting because if you look at his numbers recently, he has struggled to throw the ball. And now, with that interview and him basically coming out and saying, yeah, now, they know our plays or whatnot, it seems, as it always does, the league and the coordinators are
the book. They're getting
caught
the book
up. Yeah. So that's a little positive for us, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You take a guy that's got that much talent, but limited overall capacity because he can't hit the wide side of a barn with a pass.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody can disagree with that. You can look at a whole bunch of film to see that he's probably the least accurate passer in the league. Right. I don't care what his completion percentage is, because completion percentage is one of those things. Like, Baker had a horrible completion percentage, like 50% against the Raiders, and you're not taking into consideration drops and stuff like that. But Lamar Jackson's big thing, his threat, is his ability to run. And then and running the football in football at any level opens up the pass. It just does, because it allows them to stack the box. They have to respect it, and they have to have athletic guys to be able to chase down a dude like Lamar Jackson. But he's not. I've said this from the very beginning. That's great that he's had a couple good years, but at some point, if you look at guys who were primarily running quarterbacks, right? You look at Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham were the two
Oh yeah.
Very close. Even Cordell, right?
Yeah.
You take those guys. Randall Cunningham and Michael Vick turned into passers at the end of their career. And Randall Cunningham had one of the best. He had, statistically, with the Vikings, had one of the best years ever from an offensive perspective. I watched him a lot growing up in Pennsylvania. He was very underrated. And Michael Vick turned into a passer as well. I don't see. You look at the mechanics. You look at the arm strength. He throws like he's playing JV, but he's so damn fast that it allows him to get away with so much of it. That's eventually going to catch up with Lamar. It just will.
You know what I find interesting too. I know they're talking about Josh Allen in the chat, and two-parter, quick. First being, the big knock on him was, if you look, his accuracy in college was horrible, and accuracy historically is not something that you can build upon in the NFL. That's always been the the
It doesn't get easier to be more accurate in the NFL.
correct, and Josh Allen is pretty much debunking that because I just saw a statistic earlier today. He's uh, has the third best accuracy percentage out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And,
Mhm.
and and the second part to that was I'd love to know, and maybe one day, we'll get it, but and I know he's in the chat, so maybe he'll tell us, but um, I really would love to know who John Dorsey's second choice, like who was one
I think
A.
it was Darnold.
But wouldn't you love to know for sure?
Yeah, yeah. I would have loved to have known that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd love to know. Like yeah, I mean, right now Josh Allen is looking pretty solid.
yeah. If I ever run into Dorsey, I'll ask him that.
Yeah, you got to ask. You make sure.
Yeah. I know Quincy ran into him like at a Starbucks.
Did he
Like,
really?
yeah, he ran into a Starbucks. I'm like, you should have asked him a question or
That's
had him
funny.
come on your channel, man. But he's actually John Dorsey is the ex-husband of the sister of a guy I work with. I know it's like, but it's
No,
like,
no, you told me this. I think last year. I remember.
yeah, it's like I'm a couple levels away from him, but yeah, I would like to know that. But I think again, if you think back to NFL drafts, you have the media, you have a whole bunch of people coming out and making decisions publicly saying like you can't draft this guy, you can't draft that guy. I think we did surprise a lot of people because I
I
think it
had
really
no
came.
second choice. John Dorsey just said.
I think it really came down to the draft day or the day before when
Yeah,
Dorsey was
I
like,
think.
"Is it going to be Darnold?" Because I mean, um, you had the Browns meeting with the Darnold family. You know, you had what's his face, um, D and Jimmy were meeting right with their family and saying like, heck, like so. There's a lot of like people going in that direction.
Yeah,
Um, And unfortunately, I don't think that I think Darnold is what he is. I just don't see him being a guy who can elevate a team like a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields is going to be able to do in the NFL. Those guys are the top without a doubt type guys. You know.
you know what? If it were me, Justin Fields all day. I mean, he is a bigger Russell Wilson.
Well, I think what's going to happen when we get into the combine and we get into pro days and stuff like that, and they really start, really picking at them with and just probing everything about them. They're going to probably find out. This is my prediction
Yeah,
is that I don't know if Justin Fields he's got to speed up that delivery. It seems like he takes a long. I
he
mean,
does have a little Randall like delivery.
a very long, drawn out delivery, whereas Trevor Lawrence gets rid of it quick. And Trevor Lawrence is extremely accurate. So, but I think Fields' body is very Cam. I think he's very, very Cam with his body. And that's kind of the direction that we're heading. We're heading into this direction where like you got to be a big, strong, fast, accurate athlete, and Justin Fields checks every box there.
Oh yeah, I
You
mean,
know, and
he's
maybe he could be a Josh Allen guy where he's like his delivery, his throwing can get better over time. He just isn't at his ceiling yet. But I will say this is another thing that I don't know if you and I were talking about this or not. But when he got to Ohio State, they were saying that he needed a lot of work,
yeah.
and he's
Here we are.
obviously done really well, so he's
Yeah.
coachable. Um,
You know, something funny for you. You 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 made me think of this when you were just talking about a couple of degrees separation of from John Dorsey and the wife, but non-football. Funny story, real quick. When I was in college, my freshman year, me and my roommate would always, uh, you know, obviously go out and party on Friday nights, but every Friday we would go upstairs to a couple of the other guys on the team to see if they wanted to come out with us. every time we went up there, no, we're working on something. Okay, whatever. So this went on for weeks. So finally, it was Friday night, and I'm like, hey, we got to go up there. And they're like, and my roommate was like, no, we're not going up there. Screw those guys. I'm like, I feel bad. Let me go. So I mean, this is like 4 weeks later. So I go up there, guys. Come on, you haven't gone out. Come out with us. No, we can't. Mike, yeah. Why don't you stay here with us? We got something really cool going on. We think it's going to be big, and we need the help. And I'm like, it's Friday night. Like we're 19 years old. Like what are you guys doing that I need to be a part of? So they looked at me and said, come here. So I go over there. They said, what we're doing is we found a way that we could connect everybody to Kevin Bacon within 6 degrees. I looked at them. I said, get the fuck out of here. And I left. And now where that went. And those guys made millions off of that. And,
those guys who the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon guys.
I was there. I could have been a part of it.
That's amazing.
That's a little funny story I had.
In college, there were so many very close moments like that I had as well. There was before social media, so I graduated in 2003. One of my friends I actually was friends with quite a few of the software guys, like the computer science majors. Two of my close friends were CS majors, really good programmers. And this is back when, you remember AOL Instant Messenger? AIM?
Oh, yeah.
So like that was the way to communicate with people.
You've got mail.
All that stuff, right? So, but this was that side, the messenger product that was just a side alone download. You didn't have to be an AOL member to use it.
Yeah.
And they had profiles, but the profiles were character limited, right? So my friend John figured out a way to host like basically a private server where you could have as big a profile as you wanted, and hook it into AOL Instant Messenger. And so he was going out there, and for like I don't know if he sold it or sold access to it or gave it away free, but we were the first people who had just unlimited profiles in AOL. And we just didn't think that this could have been a bigger thing if we would have developed our own
things
network.
you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I guess hindsight's always 20/20.
And then us making silly videos. We made a whole bunch of really silly videos in college, and this is before YouTube and anything like that. And still to this day, and if we would have had YouTube, I don't think I'd be employable. Number one, but number two, I think we probably would have done and just made silly videos and made people laugh on YouTube. Because
can your dad confirm this?
Probably not. I don't think any of them are actually on the internet. My friend John, the same programmer, he actually has all the videos. I have all the raw data, but my friend John has the videos. I got to get it from him.
That's funny.
Those are the ones that I don't necessarily think I want to see the light of day. But
yeah.
But either way,
wherever they are, just keep them there.
Yeah, right. So, all right. Getting back to the game, what are we thinking? What's your prediction for the score? What do you think we're gonna do? Do you think we're gonna win this one?
I think we do. It's ugly again. I think the weather is going to be a big factor. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to say we win 17-14. Field goal wins it.
Okay.
And the field goal wins it because if the wind is blowing the way that it's blowing, and we win the toss, I think that Stefanski might have learned his lesson from the Raiders game and
take the wind
and make sure that we're going away from the wind in the fourth quarter. Because, I mean, the one thing that we know about that stadium is, I mean, they swirl back and forth, but I mean, if it's blowing strong one way, chances are that's the way it's going to be by the end of the game. So I think that I think we win by a field goal.
My dad's saying 27-20. Nikolenko says 32-21. I just don't know if we can score that many points.
Especially with the weather. That's why I capped us at 17.
I'm thinking 21-14. No
so
field goals.
21-14.
I'm gonna go 21-14. Yeah, I think that we're gonna do pretty well. Chubb's gonna be back there. We're gonna have a much stronger offense. We're gonna be able to stay on the field longer because of the running game. It's gonna be interesting to see how we use him. Right? Is he back to starting, or are we going to use him in a different type of role,
That's
like kind of like Kareem Hunt starts and he plays like the 40% role until he's back the whole way?
That's a good point that you bring up, because I didn't even think about that. And if you look at the history of this year and guys that have been banged up or injured, they've sort of developed a little method. It's not full steam ahead, throw them in. That's a good point, Mike. I'm interested to see to see what kind of timeshare that that the two of them get, how much they're actually gonna. Because I mean, even if it's a nasty game weather wise, and we really have to pound it. I mean, you brought up a great point. Like I don't know how much they want to just you know keep feeding him the ball with especially the first game back. So
Yeah, if we don't have to.
Yeah, very very good point.
I would expect him to start, and then after that, be splitting time pretty consistently. I don't see him
Yeah,
going in there just like burning out an entire drive.
yeah,
There's going to be quite a bit of in and out, I think. We got
yeah. I think so.
B Skrills calls it 24-10. Massimiani says 17-10 us. So yeah, I think I would say it's probably going to be a I think we win. I think we do win, but I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of Duke Johnson,
No.
but Deshaun Watson's still a dangerous quarterback. He's still a very good quarterback. They still have Will Fuller. They still have weapons. They still have a decent defense. They're just not coached well, and they're not game planning. So I don't know.
Yeah, and you just said it. I mean, again, we don't know what we're going to get, if it's going to be the first half of the season defense, or if they made some adjustments after watching the film for the first 8 games, and maybe they're going to throw maybe a different type of personnel out there in some spots. But I mean, you look at the middle of our defense, and I mean, that's almost like an offensive weapon for Houston. So I worry about that. I really do, because I mean, it's not even that you know think of all the years that we had the bend don't break, and we were like, all right, whatever. But I mean, these guys are bending, breaking, and everything in between. So
Yep.
and that's really the only reason why I again, weather's going to be a factor. We know that.
Yes.
It's going to neutralize everything, but that's I wouldn't be so worried with these games coming up if our defense was just. I mean, would you say we have a decent defense? I don't even know
No.
if I don't even think we could say we have a decent defense. I mean, it's almost like we're playing with 7 guys out there when you watch these teams play again. So that's my trepidation. Like
It's not that we don't have the talent, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see a scheming, and yes, you have to account for the injuries,
Mhm.
right? And we have some guys who have stepped up and done really well. Harrison's done really well. Smith has done pretty good at the end of his career here. But the
Yeah.
guys who we needed to step up and to really become those guys, like Mac Wilson, Taki, those are the guys that were like, come on, like let's go,
Yeah.
like develop, go, and we'll see. I think the verdict is out, and we've talked about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And just holding those guys accountable, because I mean, we have a 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick. These
Yeah.
aren't guys that we are married to by any means. These are guys that we're really hoping and praying will work out, because it gives us a really good launching pad to, like, hey, we work out with the 3rd and 5th round linebackers. Great.
Yeah. It's I don't know if you saw the tweet today, and your dad just took off. So have a good night, Dan.
Up to that.
But I don't know if you saw it today, but Mac Wilson, as he does, sent out a tweet, and it was one of those cryptic kind of things. But and I don't know if anybody in the chat saw it, but what it said to me was that he has declared himself healthy. So essentially he put himself on record in my opinion that's what the tweet, what I sort of deciphered it as saying. But point being is, okay, if that's where we're at, then we're going to see if he is the 29.9 PFF Mac Wilson, or if we're going to see a different guy here in the at the end of the year here, the
Right.
last half. So, but to your point, we're not married to any of them. They were. I mean, Taki was for every good pick that, from in my opinion, for every good pick that Dorsey had, there was one that was like a head scratcher, especially with some of the guys on the board at that time. And for me, he was one of them. But
Well, I mean, you got. I think this is again. We are in the window. The window has begun,
yeah,
officially begun. Going 5-3 in one half of a football season tells me that we have a team that can compete, right?
Yep.
So what's going to happen here over the next season or two is we're going to have to find those optimizations. Whereas in the past with Browns teams, it'd be like every other year we'd have a new GM coming in there wanting to clean house. So we'd have a running back, and then we're like, let's draft another running back. It's like, well, why did we get rid of one guy if we could? You have to build. You don't have to just keep replacing the same weapons you have, right? So we have decent weapons now. We just have to be able to continue to build and optimize. And I think we're in one of those positions right now, but we still then have to hit. And the Ravens hit, and the Steelers hit.
Yeah.
We have to be able to hit, and the Patriots have been hitting too. So we have to be able to hit.
You know what's a worry to me too, and I believe it. They've alluded to it, but they just don't value the linebacker spot the way most teams do. And that part of it, me personally, I just don't get. Like we need, I mean, at least one guy in the middle of that defense that can tackle, cover, and run pretty damn fast sideline to sideline. And that's not asking for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when was the last time we had that? And everybody will say, "Oh, well, Joe Schobert," and I like Joe, but I mean, more times than not, he was on his belly looking around to see where the guy actually wound up, going after he missed the tackle.
Yeah, he whiffed a couple times. There was definitely some whiffs.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not that guy that I'm looking for.
The linebacker position, I'm going to say probably DeQuell.
Yeah, and
he might have been.
Yeah, that might have been the last one that was remotely close.
Consistent, just steadily consistent, and a guy that we could count on to make tackles and stop. And I think those are the linebacker is an anchor type position.
Yeah,
just like your defensive ends are anchors, and your corners are anchors. You have to have those guys to be able to then have the role players in there at defensive tackle, safety, but you have to have a linebacker or two who can be real anchors for you. Yeah. And at this point, it's a soft spot. Yeah. And I hope Mac will, because I just said say I realize Mac Wilson's 22 years old.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. He's like half my age. Okay, yeah. He is by no means, do I say we're giving up on Mac Wilson?
Right.
Taki's 25. Right.
Yeah,
Taki has got to. He has to show up soon. Plus, he's the third round pick, so he's getting paid third round pick money, not fifth.
And
round
that was
the
money. Thing too. Like, how many guys were? You and I have to do that one of these weeks, just out of curiosity, to go back, because I know that there were some solid guys that were still on the board when Taki's name was called. And I mean, he can't cover. He could barely tackle. It's bad. I don't even see him making the team next year. That, to me, and a big reason is, I mean, it's not like he's 22-year-old Mac Wilson. It's he should know by now, and
Right.
he's absolutely lost. And it's not that the guy can't tackle or he's not fast. He just can't. He can't process. By the time he figures out what's going on, I mean, it's over for him.
And that's the thing. I think that's my biggest knock on Taki and
Yeah.
Mac Wilson. It's not that they're not athletic; they have the athletic ability, right? It's
Yep.
the awareness, and that's the X factor in anything. To be elite, you have to have elite awareness of
I mean,
what's
you
going on.
noticed. Remember when you messaged me during the Raiders game, and you said to me, and you'll remember because I came right back to you. It was like, you know what, Mike? I was thinking the same thing. But the play before the touchdown, or it's two plays before that touchdown, if you remember, and you messaged me, they threw the ball across the middle, and instead of Mac going for the interception, which he would have had, he tried to lay the hit. Remember?
Yeah, he tackled them.
Yes. And that turned out to be a touchdown drive there, and like you were talking about it, that is
It's
that
frustrating.
situational awareness that you gotta have, and it's not there, and I don't know
Yeah,
if it ever will be.
and you know what? I also realize that Mac Wilson's perspective and view of the game is in the trench,
Yep.
and his job is to tackle guys, right? So he just may not have seen it. The speed of the game might have just been fast, and he just didn't see it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do my job." But unfortunately, it's things like that, and then you have T. Mitch dropping interceptions. We just have moments like that again, to be a playoff team in the NFL, and especially to be a Super Bowl contending team in the NFL, you
Yeah.
have to be able to capitalize when you have things that hit you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You got to catch the ball when it
Got
hits you in
to.
the face, on offense and on defense. We cannot have guys that are being paid millions of dollars have balls hit them in the numbers and then it miss. And I get it. The circus catches. I mean, Njoku,
Oh, that
Jarvis,
one.
and
The Njoku
Hunt
one.
they've all three of them have made circus catches this year that they
Yeah.
shouldn't have made. And
And
yet,
then you had that one against the Raiders.
and then you have ones that you're sitting there, you're going, wait,
Why?
that's not what was supposed to happen, right? So those guys know it too. I mean, those are plays that are going to haunt those guys. So they just have to recognize it and then just make the improvements,
Yeah.
right? And if they can, then great. If they can't, then unfortunately they'll probably have to go find another team.
Yeah. And speaking of improvements, I think it was today or it was yesterday. I can't remember because I want to say you and I talked about it last night for the 7.5 minutes that we were whether we were on or we weren't on. I don't even know what was going on, but they asked Stefanski about Greedy again, and he basically just said, he's still rehabbing, the heck out of it. Yeah, I'm almost at the point where I think that it's starting to look like it might be a surgery type deal, because what possibly at this point, I mean, that literally was training camp when that occurred.
Yeah,
And
early.
yeah, it was early, and they've alluded to the fact that it's it's a nerve thing, and I don't know. I mean, we're running out of weeks. There's nothing to report. He's still rehabbing. It can't be because you figure if it was like a structural thing, like uh, like it was a collarbone or it was AC joint. Um, that's something that would have been pretty healed up by now to be able to play through. So
Yeah,
I think there's
9
something.
weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it also could be one of those things that we're like, look, we're just like we're good. Like, I mean, if you think about like Higgins last year, Higgins got hurt, and then they were like, we're just not going to let you play again.
Yeah.
We're going to let the other guys play and see what they can do. I just don't think we have that luxury. I think if Greedy was willing and able to play, he should be playing, but we don't know. We don't know what the situation is. He's not practicing. So it's out of sight, out of mind, and at some point we're gonna have to go and look and say, "Hey guys, where is the biggest biggest opportunity, the lowest hanging fruit for us, and opportunities to get better are on the in the defensive backfield, whether that's corner,
Absolutely.
a complementary corner to Denzel, which is what we've needed, or do we really go and address in the draft? We address the safety position, and and see what happens with Delpit, and see if he comes back and he can do it. Great. If not, we have a backup plan there too. Again, we have a window. We are just now entering it. If you look at the heart and the core of the team, we're gonna have to pay Chubb. We're gonna have to pay Baker. We've already paid Miles. So those are the core guys, and Denzel's going to be in there as well. I think Denzel has had a very serviceable season so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he's proven himself that can stay healthy and perform. So Denzel's back into the good graces of the question mark's kind of gone away. Yeah. So it really comes down to me, because I think the core elements of the team are there, is coaching, stability in terms of like longevity and stability with coaching, and then the GM being competent and being able to pull the trigger on draft picks and hitting on draft picks and not. I do think absolutely what we should do is do the dartboard game.
Yeah, that has to happen.
And we don't even have to physically throw a dart. I mean, I'm sure I could find a randomizer program on the internet where you just click a button and it goes boom, perfect. There you go. There's your guy. And just follow those guys throughout their career and be like, okay, who's left? Click, and then it just gives us our guy that we take, who are projected into every round.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been reading the chat, and there's a lot of good points in there. In terms of the defensive side of the ball, because if you look, Richardson has been a disappointment as far as I'm concerned thus far. Ogunjobi has been a disappointment thus far. Vernon, I mean, he had a sack, I think, last game, or 2 sacks or whatever. But yeah. I mean, he's been kind of non-existent. But Ogunjobi and Richardson are just puzzling to me, especially. I think Ogunjobi is in a contract year. I mean, they were getting blown off the ball at that Raiders game when I went back and watched the film. I mean, it was just. That's what led me to believe like they're just going through the motions. Like the bye week is calling them, and it's calling them like right now.
Yeah.
But they literally need to step it up from that point, because the linebackers are so bad that, especially like I said, that Raiders game, I mean, they were pushing that defensive line back so far into the middle of the defense that those guys didn't even have a chance to react anywhere. So I mean, now you're making a big issue, an even bigger issue. So I hope that we see, they had a week off. They got fresh legs. So, they should be firing on all cylinders. If they come out flat, it's going to be a long second half of the year. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think at 6-2, I would have been like, get your playoff tickets ready. At 5-3, it's just, we'll see.
It's what I say it was 30, 40 as of today. Mm-hmm. The first team out of the wild card is the Raiders with a 43.3% chance of getting into the playoffs, followed by us. So essentially, we are the 9th team, right? Because the Raiders would be 8.
Yep.
And as of today, our chances of getting into the playoffs is 38.3%. So isn't that wild? Going into that Raiders game, we were like, what, 78% or something like that? And even after. But the Dolphins, who would have thunk it? I mean, they were doing really well, and Fitzpatrick was having a nice year, and they said, you know what, it's time for the kid, and Tua's done a serviceable job so far. And I mean, would you ever thought the Dolphins are sitting in a playoff spot at this time of the year?
No, I would never. But this is also like one of those things that it doesn't take 10 years to rebuild a team.
Yeah,
exactly. It takes a season to rebuild a team. One season.
Unless you're the Browns.
Right? So it really does. I mean, and then you got to think, what is the consistent thing? right? What is the consistent thing that's there between all the players, the coaches, the front offices, the ownership? Ownership
Yeah.
is a consistent thing. And I never thought that it was that ownership was like a big deal. I'm like, who cares? These are guys who sign the checks. Like they're
Yeah.
not they're not the ones doing anything. But I mean, I've heard enough
Yeah.
from people who have worked for the Browns in various positions that what kind of a shit show it has
Yeah.
been um,
Hopefully we're
with
seeing the turnaround.
with the Haslams so far. But they definitely hired some smart guys. Stefanski's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Barry's a smart guy. Still has Dave Podesta in there. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
And like you were talking about, if I think that they do go out and get another safety just in case, there's some hangups with Delpit. But man, if he could come, and we know how difficult it is to come back from an Achilles. He's young. That helps. But man, if we got the sophomore year Grant Delpit coupled with Ronnie Harrison, we solve a lot of problems in the
yeah.
back half of that defense. A lot of problems.
And then let's just throw on top of that, maybe get Redwine to develop a little bit too. So
Yeah.
Redwine going into his third year turns into a serviceable third.
Yeah, solid depth guy.
Yeah, because I mean, Carl Joseph and Sendejo are definitely they're just not the answer.
No, and
They're old, 29 and 33. They're old
They
and they're
are.
showing it.
You have to
and
feel
they're
bad for
clearly fine.
Sendejo in a way.
I mean, he's 33 years old. He's been in the league for a very very long time. I think he's
He's a
trying his
depth
best,
guy.
but he wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be in this
No.
role.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where people are giving him a hard time. It's like he's
Yeah.
playing poorly. Well, it's like he even knows. He's like, I'm
Right.
doing my best. I'm not supposed to be the every down guy.
Right. So I mean, yeah. I mean, he's for being a depth guy, and I mean, like he was like the depth guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has he been horrible? Yes. At the same time that he's been horrible, not every one of those plays where he's looking around and you're like, oh, this freaking guy again. Not all of them have been his fault. There's been communication issues on the back end. One of those was actually Denzel's fault. So, not to say that he's doing a great job or even a good job, but I mean,
Yeah.
he is what he is. He's a serviceable guy that is in there because unfortunately our rookie, which is so Browns, but tore his Achilles tendon in training camp.
Browns and the Bengals. It happens to both of us, you know.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Well, but the good thing is, I do have faith in the guys that we have in the front office at this point. I
agree.
really do, because they haven't burned any of my faith yet. I mean, they haven't done anything that I'm like, what the hell? Other than not making a trading deadline move, but we don't know the details of that. And would you have wanted them to have traded something substantial to get a non super substantial player that's like a Pro Bowl level player, like
it's
to fill a hole that
the good organizations find a way, and I think we mentioned this last week or whatever, but the Steelers are such a great example of that. People, and it's funny because you like when you're on Twitter or what have you, and like God forbid you bring up like a draft pick, people go ape shit. Like you can't take away we need that draft pick and we need that draft pick. I get it.
yeah.
But draft picks are unknowns. Minka Fitzpatrick was a known. So the Steelers, being the organization that they are, and the stability and the guys that they have in place that judge talent,
Yeah.
that was like a no-brainer. The Dolphins, and think about that. Where would the Dolphins be right now if they had held on to that dude? But I mean, those are the kind of moves that you would love to see us be able to make. But to even answer your question further is I don't even know if there's a guy out there that, like a Minka Fitzpatrick, that they thought that is undeniably a top tier talent such as him. I don't even know if this Browns front office would sacrifice one of those picks, because I truly believe, and I hope that he turns out to be the guy. But I think there's a little bit of skepticism behind the scenes that, they needed to keep that ammunition just in case they needed to try and make a run up the draft board come April.
Well,
That's just my 2
yeah,
cents
and
on
I
it.
think thinking back to the Minka move that the Steelers made, I think that there's a couple things. There's a couple. The Steelers rolled the dice a little bit because he was definitely a character iffy guy there in Miami, and his stats were decent, but not. I mean, not he wasn't what he became when he got to the Steelers. So again, it again goes to show the quality. If you take a talented player
Yep.
and you place them in a quality organization surrounded by quality coaching and a really good scheme, and then let him play his position, he's going to do great things. And he's done nothing but great things for the Steelers. I mean, Hall of Fame level player at this point, and all they did was give up a draft pick.
Right.
Right.
And in hindsight, you say to a Steeler fan, "Oh, what did Minka cost? That cost you a first round." Okay, sounds good to me, because
and that's what he was too. They just compensated him for the level of prospect that he was. And the other thing too, here's another thing. Since the Steelers are so consistent, they've had the team, the scouts, and all these guys, the coaches, front office in place for so long. It would lead me to believe that these guys had been scouting Fitzpatrick in college, maybe even high school. They know who he is. They've been watching him. They wanted to have a crack at him when he got to the pros, and they just didn't have a chance to draft him. Goes to the Dolphins. He becomes available. Everybody goes, guys, we've wanted this guy forever. Now we have a chance to get him. Go give him the pick. It's going to be in the high 20s anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and then they probably also looked and say, if we want this position, we really want this guy to be the anchor, who at that draft pick is going to be available, and there's no guarantee that guy's going to be available in the 20s, that whatever the pick is. So it made a lot of sense if they wanted to fill that role and they knew what they were getting, and then what happens? He comes in and produces.
Yeah,
right?
and to your point, like that is a great way to look at it, Mike, because if you take it, if you look at it, they did that last year. So that they identified the free safety spot as a position on the field that they really needed to upgrade in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at what was coming out, and it was a no-brainer to send a pick for Minka Fitzpatrick. And if you look, I mean, Delpit's hurt. Winfield's playing really good in Tampa Bay, but he's not playing Minka Fitzpatrick good. You've got the kid down in New Orleans, Chauncey Gardner, who's been playing well. Has he been playing Minka Fitzpatrick well? No. So talk about nailing they nailed the draft pick. It just happened to be in a trade, but
they still because of what they gave up.
Yeah. I mean, perfect. And what's funny too is, somebody in the chat was talking about Joe Woods. Are they worth keeping after the season?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's on the hot seat yet, but what I do know is that I believe there has to be a lot of question around him in terms of why hasn't he been able to take what basically what's in the cupboard and figure out a way to maneuver those guys to scheme a little bit better. And I mean, through 8 games, it's almost like we've had no scheme adjustments. I mean, unless I'm just missing it while I'm watching. But so
we're not winning games with our defense.
No, and we're not doing anything to
other than turnovers
play to our strengths.
Yeah. So to answer, Aro is asking, is Joe Woods worth keeping after the season?
Yep.
I just don't. It depends on a lot of things. How we do in the second half.
Yep.
If it's clear that the defense is the problem and he's not capable of coaching and leading the defense. It'll also depend on, what are the other defensive coaches on the team thinking? What is Stefanski thinking? Was he Stefanski's guy? We don't know that. So there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. I've been skeptical of Joe Woods for a long time. I was like, look, if we're gonna have a first year head coach, never been a head coach before, who's also going to be the offensive coordinator, so it's like a head coach who's going to take on the role of the offensive coordinator calling the plays, and then we're going to bring in a first time defensive coordinator. So again, no stability there, just raw talent and hoping that these guys work out. Let's say that we hit on Stefanski, is because it's clear that Stefanski's taking 100% of the offense and just trusting Joe Woods with the defense. It's clear, you can see it. So if Joe Woods can't do it, I think it depends. Unless we're getting blown out by teams and not being able to keep up with them from an offense standpoint, then I think he may end up going. I don't know what his contract looks like either, but
yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
and I don't know who's available.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, he had no. There was no love loss with the Broncos. They were never really a fit, and I should say they weren't really fans of him. One guy that we always thought that was going to come in, and there were rumors, and it just never worked out. And maybe we see him come in down the road as what am I trying to say? I'm losing the thought. A consultant, I guess is the word I'm looking for, is Wade Phillips. That was somebody that was mentioned over and over again that he was going to come in with Woods, and he didn't. But I really do think that it's, they'll evaluate the year and whatnot. But just for me, looking at it, he hasn't really put anybody in better positions. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the coach's mantra. Like I remember Andy Reid used to say it to death in press conference. I gotta put guys in better positions to make plays. And I mean, our guys have heartbeats. So just they're NFL players with a heartbeat on an NFL field. So I mean, they could play, right? So as a coach, it's your job to figure out how to put them in better positions. Maybe play a little bit more man as opposed to zone. Something.
Oh my God. We play the softest zone.
Oh, we do. And our linebackers are so terrible that it's
the same Steve. It's the same Steve Wilks system. If you're going to do the same thing, why get rid of Steve Wilks?
Right.
I mean, Steve Wilks wouldn't blitz anybody, and was just relying on the talent of Myles Garrett. Right. And so far, I haven't seen anything from Woods to say that he's not doing the same thing. Myles Garrett is going to be a dominant force that teams are going to have to manage, right? But you have to do better than that. And the fact that we never seem to dial up pressure. When we dial up pressure, it's always coming from our front four, whether it's Richardson sneaks in, Ogunjobi, Myles, or Olivier, who had some decent, or we'll randomly bring a corner,
right?
But
it's very sparse though.
Our linebackers aren't getting to the quarterback ever.
No, never.
And then when a play is broken down, they're not rushing in to pressure the pass. Quarterbacks are running for 9 yards, either to the corner, to the end, to the sideline, or right up the middle, like right in our gut. So that's the challenge. I think Xander said, do we think the Bengals are going to beat the Steelers? Unlikely.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers right now are what the record is, the best team in football.
Unless, do we know, is Roethlisberger off the COVID list yet, or
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him.
Hold on, let me take a peek.
I would. Alex says Mike Pettin returning as our defensive coordinator. We don't need.
I saw that.
We don't need to bring back high school coach, for his second time around.
They said they're preparing as if he's gonna play.
Dude, I mean, I don't know. Thinking back to all the coaches that we had, who would you say was the most underwhelming coach? And I'll give you three options: Pettin,
Yep.
Chudzinski, and I can't even remember the dude's name. Guy who went to be offensive coordinator for the Giants, or no, the coach of the Giants.
Why can't I think of it?
Yeah, he's slipping my name. His name is slipping. Look at Browns coaches.
While you're doing that, I feel bad for Chud, to be quite honest with you, because if
Pat Shermer.
Yes, Pat Shermer. It's
Yeah, Nikolenko said it.
There's so many variables that go into. I mean, to go back to 1995, and I know we just it was the anniversary a couple weeks ago or whatnot, but it's crazy how much of of internal sabotage we've had, because everybody, oh, Al Lerner, he brought the team back, whatever. No, Al Lerner he helped broker that deal, and so he was just as big of a part of a problem as Art Modell actually just picking up and leaving. But then you go back to the Chudzinski hire, and that was basically uh, the two clowns that came in that were forced to have to come in and help run the team. You know who I'm talking about? Lombardi and what's the other guy? Who am I missing? Eagles.
Yeah, you talking about the Holmgren era?
No, right after the Holmgren era, wasn't it? Wasn't Chudzinski? Wasn't that Lombardi and Joe Banner when the Haslams bought the team? They were trying to get that A+ coach, and everybody was taken. And then they sat there with their what in their hand, and they were like, oh, what do we do now? And then that's how we got Chudzinski. So
Yeah.
that was like that was part two of the sabotage, because in order for the Haslams to buy the team, they were told that they had to take on Joe Banner, because the Haslams had never owned a team, and Banner, came from the Eagles, and him and Andy clashed all the time. I don't care what anybody tells you, but he was forced on us, and then in turn he forced Lombardi on us, and then in turn it was a clown show, and they could not hire a coach. Nobody wanted to come.
Hey,
And then
you want to know something really funny?
yeah,
For that 2013 Chudzinski season,
yeah.
at 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 one point we were 3-2.
Yeah, he wasn't horrible.
We were 3-2 at one point, and we ended up the season 4-12.
Yeah, but what's funny is he knew what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to take the job because, I mean, there's only 32 of them, and you can't. I mean, somebody told you tomorrow, hey, Mike, you're not my number one choice. You're not my number two choice. Shit, you're not even my 25th choice, but we'd like you to coach the Cleveland Browns. Okay, I got my pen. Where do I sign? But it's, I mean, that set us back a ton. It's
Looking at Browns coaches, and taking Paul Brown
out of it.
Who would you say who would have the highest win percentage?
Out of
All the other coaches. Collier,
Belichick,
Tigliano, Belichick, Schottenheimer.
I mean, you would.
Okay, this is going to shock you.
If I had a guess, out of all of them,
mm-hmm.
my initial reaction would be either Sam or Marty,
mm-hmm.
but
Marty's up there.
But I know it's going to be somebody that is like surprising.
It's kind of a trick question. because Paul Brown had a 76.7 win percentage. 76.7. Kevin Stefanski has a 71.4. Well, actually, no, it can't. That can't be right because they're only saying that he's 5-2 here, so that's incorrect.
But that's still scary because I mean,
Greg Williams, 62.5. So right now, Greg Williams and Stefanski are tied, and then right after that, Collier with 69%. After that, Schottenheimer with 62%. Belichick was only a 450. He was only a 450 hitter, 36 and 44.
I got to tell you and I'm sure that I've mentioned this to you numerous times, but man, the Retigliano era was always cool for me because my friend, his dad was in the front office of the Browns, and he was a good friend of my dad. We're all still good friends, but that was such a good time because that was back when like there was no security the way we see it today. I mean,
yeah.
I remember I was at I think it was in '83, and it was the Colts Browns, and I literally was like standing next to like Mike Pagel, like literally like they're throwing the ball, and I'm like 2 feet away. I remember them just standing next to the field goal kicker, watching him kick field goals, and then I sat on the 10-yard line in a metal chair, and it just and those are just it's such good memories. Dude, there was one day I had a catch with Ozzie Newsome and Tom Cousineau.
Oh my God.
I remember like it was yesterday, but those are like real fond memories. I know my dad really liked Sam, and the way it went down when he got fired and then Marty took over was always like, my dad still talks about that, like a bad taste in his mouth. But those were just such good years because it was just, man, you were coming off the Cardiac Kids, and they were transitioning a little bit, but Sipe was still there. They were solid, and just being able to, be the color guard on my Cub Scout troop, being the color guard for the Browns, 2-3 games a year, and like hang out and watch the game on the field. It was always really cool. So like that era always has like a special place.
See,
in my heart.
I was a little bit too young for the Retigliano. So I was born in '80, and he was the coach through '84, and then Schottenheimer took over in '84 to '88. So Schottenheimer was kind of my first Browns coach.
Yep.
And then I very clearly remember Bud Carson getting hired, and being like, all right. And '89 we went to the AFC Championship or AFC Division Championship.
And
so
Bud Carson,
he had a
that
good
was right
year
after the
90.
Was that right after the Giants won the Super Bowl? Then they hired him off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know who Jim Schaffner was. He took over midway through the 1990 season because Bud Carson got fired. Then we brought in Belichick. And Belichick had some rough years there in the beginning. He didn't really turn it around until '94. And then '95, when they announced we were leaving, we just fell apart.
Yeah. And there's still a portion of the fan base that no matter how good Bill Belichick is and how many rings he got, he'll always be the guy that fired Bernie.
Yeah. But I mean, if we're actually putting a perspective hat on, I remember that season, and it was really clear that Bernie's best days were behind him.
Oh,
breaking the leg, taking all the hits, he couldn't move. He was probably experiencing some early signs of CTE at that point from like how bad he was getting hit. I mean, same thing with Joe Montana. Joe Montana was the reason why he hasn't been out there. I think that he's been dealing with some of that same stuff. And
he has been behind the scenes.
Yeah, and so he was a guy who should have been out there for 4 for 4 in the Super Bowl type guy.
Yeah.
I still to this day will put Joe Montana above Tom Brady. I'll do it. He had better teams. It wasn't the same era where you would just be, forever. But I think Joe Montana still, in terms of my eyes, was the best quarterback I had ever seen play professional football. But Bernie was really struggling that year. And then you've got Testaverde, who was really just kind of becoming that really decent quarterback. And Testaverde had really good seasons for the Jets. I mean, I didn't even win an league MVP one year. Or was close to it.
Close to it. I don't know if he won it, but yeah, I mean, he did have some solid years.
Yeah, tested
Most
for
definitely.
later in his career. His Tampa Bay years and then his Browns years were iffy. But 1994, he had a good year, right?
But it's funny too. And when you talk about the '90s, I mean, Belichick actually did Bernie a favor because if he doesn't cut him, he doesn't go and win that Super Bowl with the Cowboys. So
And he won that. He won that NFC Championship game. Bernie
absolutely,
did. He won
yep,
that NFC Championship game because when Troy Aikman went down.
yep,
So he almost. We were thinking that he might have been given the Super Bowl.
yeah.
Where we were like, well, we might be see Bernie. He actually did take a knee
And,
at the end. He
and
got in at the end of the
he
game.
played well that game. I mean, every time he came in that year, he played well. I don't because Aikman had a couple of concussions that year,
Yeah.
and we saw Bernie, quite a bit, and yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, if you look back and you look at that offensive line was second to none. The tight end
Hall
was
of Famers
Novacek.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you had Harper and Irvin on the outside. Of course, you had Moose and Emmett in the backfield. I mean, he was probably
He even said it.
in his glory.
He's like, all I had. We had Hall of Famers all around me. All I had to do was hand the ball off to
Yeah,
Emmett, throw a slant to Alvin Harper, throw it deep to Michael Irvin. I mean, it was just Bernie never had. He had good talent, but he never had that. Everybody in their prime at the same time level talent.
yeah.
It's not like it was like the late '90s, like '98 Cowboys, '99 Cowboys. Like it was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fourth year in the league Cowboy guys that were like, oh, we're gonna go win the Super Bowl.
And what's funny too is I was just thinking about this because you said slant and all I could think of is Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin slanting each other to death. But do you ever think about it's something that I've thought about and you just really hit a chord with me and made me remember. But if you look back at the Giant tape, right? Eli, I mean the quick slant to OBJ, I mean that happened at least once a drive in OBJ's Giant days.
Mhm.
And then if you remember last year, they maybe called that play once or twice, one being the big
Jet game.
touchdown in the Jet game. Yep. And other than that, they never dialed it up last year. And up until OBJ got hurt, and I know it's not a huge sample size, but I got to be honest with you, I don't even remember one slant to OBJ, and I'm so curious about that because I mean,
OBJ came to the Browns and was like, I'm a deep threat now.
yeah, like
He's like,
I
I'm gonna
just
be your. I want to hit home runs for you now. I don't want to be your possession guy. And I think we looked at him and we're like, okay, you're gonna be a home run guy. And that's why we didn't use him as that possession receiver or all around receiver for the Browns. We'll use Jarvis for that, or we'll use one of our other kids. But yeah, you're right. We didn't have have that automatic 7 yards when we needed it.
And it's funny
play
because that touchdown last year in the Jet game,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just take that touchdown, that play, and put him in the Giant blue, and we've seen that play 1,000 times over the years when he was with Eli.
Yeah,
1,000 times. Quick slant, such an athletic and speedy guy that
one cut, gone.
If you have the wrong positioning on me, I'll see you in the end zone. We haven't seen any of that.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he comes back.
Yeah.
People are like, well, it's his last game and they're 70% off or 30% off. They're wholesaling his jerseys and stuff. It's like, he ain't going anywhere.
Nah, he'll be here.
He ain't going anywhere. We're not, unless somebody comes up and it's like ponies up. They're not going to pony up for a guy who just had, ACL surgery and is 28 years old. Yeah. Like, they're not going to do that, right? When there's other guys out there. Like,
and he just turned 29, actually, I believe.
There you go. So here we go. Now we've got Jarvis and Odell, who are at the end of their career as we're coming into our window. So the reality is, at some point we're going to have to replace those guys. And those are two top level. I mean, I don't know Hall of Fame. You could make an argument for both of them Hall of Fame, but yeah, I mean, I
I
think
don't
they're
think he
the
goes
best.
anywhere.
You could argue that both of their best years were behind them in Miami and in New York. And we need to be able to pull one. And I think next year is going to be it. Next year is going to be the real year. This year was the test. This year
Yeah.
was getting your feet wet, getting your foundation set, and learning what you got, and then fixing some of those holes. Both learning how to be coaches, learning how to be front office people, like Andrew Barry, first year GM, Stefanski, Joe Woods. These are first year coaches, in these leadership coach positions. Yeah, and then you got
I
still a
agree
lot of
with you.
young guys on the team too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Schottenheimer didn't win it. He didn't get to the AFC Championship his first year.
Yeah.
It took him like what 3 years to get there.
And to your point, and I think as fans, I mean, I know I'm guilty of it, and it's not until I take a step back and go, all right, well, wait a second. When you look at like you take someone like Andrew Berry, for example. He was hired this year. This is his job. So he understands what he needs to do to get us to a Super Bowl winning type of team. But point being is, it's his job. Like he doesn't. Would he love to win the Super Bowl this year? Would he love to advance to the AFC Championship game this year? Absolutely. But he took a job just like we have a job in our everyday life, and you just don't come in to a job and just be 100% successful day one.
Yeah,
It's it's a building period. So you
absolutely.
know, so for him, it the gazillion years of us just starving for a playoff appearance, or the past few years just starving for 7 wins, that doesn't mean squat to him. His clock started, this year when he got hired.
Hmm.
So I think sometimes as fans we often lose sight of that, but it's unfortunately it's a process, and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing for him is he does this, hey, it's one game at a time. We're 0-0. We want to be 1-0 every week, and that's a great way to look at it
yeah,
because it keeps you on track, and you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future. You're thinking about the today, and today's the day you got to do your job, right? So I think that I do believe in Kevin Stefanski. I really
yeah,
do. And I'll go on record and say, I've said it before, I wasn't excited about the hire. And it wasn't anything personal against Stefanski. It's just there wasn't a body of work that I could go back and go, that guy's going to be great. And when you're coming from Terry Rubisky, Romeo Cornell, Eric Mangini, Pat Shermer, Rob Chajinski, Mike Pettin, Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, when there's so much disappointment,
yeah,
and then we're like, really, guys? You got McCarthy, you got McDaniels out there who are admittedly retreads, but at least guys who know how to be head coaches, right? And then, or at least, have had that experience that they can then bring. And you know what? Belichick, the same thing. Belichick wasn't the Bill Belichick when he was on the Browns. He became that
yeah,
after he learned. If you read the Belichick book, where he talks about it, they're like, what did you learn from the Browns? He's like, I learned what not to do.
yeah,
But he did make a very similar decision early on at the Patriots to
yeah,
what he did with the Browns when they had Drew Bledsoe, who was the face of that organization for a very long time, with a very good team that first year when they won the Super Bowl. When he
yeah,
goes down, he sat there and was like, I'm going to give it to Brady. I'm going to keep the hot hand with the kid. And he
yeah.
did, and they won the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
And then Tom Brady, that's where his story began. But
Yeah,
but Belichick had to make the decision of, are we going to go with Bledsoe, or is it going to? And Tom Brady even got hurt for a
hmm,
play or two at the end of that season, where Bledsoe had to come back. He's like, okay, I'm coming back in, guys. Now it's my time. Had a couple plays. Brady shook it off and went back in the game, and
yep.
Bledsoe, never sniffed the field again.
And to
and they
your
won the
point
Super Bowl.
with Stefanski, I think that, and the point that you made with we're focusing on going 1-0, and that's that's what we're looking for. I think that his guys have bought into it too, because I mean, up and down those press conferences, they try and get him to bite, to go off of that, that battle cry, so to speak, and those dudes don't miss a beat,
Yeah, he
right?
doesn't
From
do it.
Baker to to Jarvis to whoever,
They
you
like
know,
it. Yeah.
they love it. They say, oh, well, they asked one of them, something about, the playoffs or what have you. And just like that, came right back to it. The only thing we're concerned about is going 1-0 this week. And I think that speaks volumes for where they are, in
And
terms of,
it's the truth.
yeah,
The
it
bottom
really
line
is.
is the simplest way to look at it.
Yeah,
If you're a doctor and you're like, you know what, I'm not trying to, cure the world. I have one patient at a time. I got to heal one patient at a time. You're
right.
in sales. It's I got one deal at a time. I'm going to close one deal at a time. Put all of your focus into whatever you have right in front of you.
Yeah,
And if you can do that, you're probably going to be successful if you can manage that.
yeah,
But as we know, we're all people. If we're looking at it, they're looking at it. They have media people that are talking to them. So you got to stay really strong.
yeah.
And I think Stefanski this year, God, I hope we make the playoffs. But looking at what we have, do we have 5 wins? Because it's probably going to take 5.
We should.
Do we have 5 wins left on the schedule? And it's going to start this week with the Texans, because the Texans are 2-6. Now the
Oh, yeah,
Texans are historically a very good team, and there's a lot of talent on that team. But right now we're 5-3, and right now they're 2-6. And if you take a 5-3 team, they have the advantage. They have to beat the 2-6 team if we want to try to make it to the playoffs. And if we don't, and if we end up going 5-4, and then it's the Eagles, then it's the Jags, and who knows? And we're just that light's gonna get a little darker every time.
Yeah, and I mean, the chat's talking about Freddie. He's the Giants tight end coach now. But you look at this game. This if the Raiders game wasn't a must win, this game is a must win. Period. In my mind, this sets the tone, because if they don't come out and win this game, it is not going to be easy sledding against the Eagles that following week. I could
The Eagles
promise
they're gonna play us
everybody
tough.
that yes, it's they need to win this game,
Yep.
get some confidence, get some momentum, and then have the Eagles come in and be feeling good about ourselves. Because if we lose this game and the Eagles come to town, I could tell you they're not going to be feeling as confident as they will be if they're coming off of
6. There's a big difference between
win.
6-3 and 5-4.
Oh yeah,
Big difference.
Absolutely.
Big difference. So I think if we want to seriously remain in the hunt, we got to win this game. We have to win the Eagles game. The Eagles are, even though they're first place in their division, they're not much better statistically, or at least from a win-loss perspective.
Nope.
And then you have the Jags, and those are games that good teams find a way to beat bad teams.
Yeah.
And we found a way to beat the Redskins. I'm just gonna call them that. The Cowboys, the Bengals. We found a ways to win those games, even though it could have gone the other way very easily. But we found a way to win, and that's been a cultural issue with us, with the Browns for decades, is not finding a way to win in those games where we probably should, and laying the egg when we couldn't afford to. So this is going to be the next test. These are 3 games in a row that are teams
Big.
below 500 and significantly below 500.
Yeah.
And then we've got 2 more at the end of the season with the Giants and the Jets. And oh, by the way, the Titans, I mean, they're leading.
They're beatable.
The Bengals prove they're beatable. Now the Bengals have a much different offense, but it just shows that they're beatable. I think what it's going to come down to, because if you really think about the Raiders game, it wasn't our offense that let us down so much as it was our defense couldn't get off the damn field to even give it back to the offense to go score points.
Oh yeah, I mean that was, what do we have? Didn't we have like 8 total possessions on offense?
We had the ball for like 22 minutes. They had it for like 38.
Yeah, it was something obscene.
It was ridiculous. So I don't expect that. I don't expect us to be just managed the way that the Raiders managed us. But it's really this. It's like, again, we talk about this every week. Every week what's the new test? Right? We passed the test against the Bengals. We failed the test against the Raiders. We failed the test against the Steelers. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, the Raiders are a playoff team. The Ravens and the Steelers are playoff teams. Those are 3 playoff teams.
Yep.
Right? So we lost to 3 playoff teams and we beat 5 non-playoff teams. I really don't think the Colts are going to make it. So,
and the one thing, and I beat it like a dead horse for the past couple weeks, and I apologize to everybody, but this game is going to be, I mean, the weather could change at the drop of a hat, and Sunday could be, 65 and sunny with an 8-mile-an-hour wind.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it. So I look at this game and I don't have a worry about, the passing game, so to speak, because this is going to be one of those, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And if you got to pass, you pass. And it's, it's more high percentage kind of things. But it's going to start for me, unless the weather is crummy again against the Eagles. But for me, it starts with the Eagles game because I still don't know what we are going to look like without OBJ. I can't count the Raiders game because we didn't have the ball enough. I worry, and I was talking to a couple of friends about this again today. I just worry that without him, there is nobody else outside at the wide receiver spot that's actually going to scare anybody and not going to scare people enough to not bring extra men in the box to stop the run and dare Baker to beat us with the receivers that we have. Granted, we've got a nice set of tight ends and Jarvis. I just don't know if I don't know what that looks like. Well, and I'll be honest. And that'll be what you guys think. That scares me.
That'll be the test then. That'll be the real test, because if we know we can run the ball, everybody else knows we can run the ball. When you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you can run the ball. And we have this offensive line that's coming back to full strength after having an extra week to rest. Yeah. Right. So we're coming back more looking like we're full strength. Okay. And, well, yes, OBJ is that home run threat. But with that home run, if you end up shutting him down, or if he drops a pass, or if he does certain things like that, he can get in his own head and throw off, the dynamic of the offense pretty easily. When things are going really well for OBJ, things are going well for everybody, because OBJ's happy. Look, we can be awesome. Look, he's as good as everybody said he was, and everybody's super happy, because I think that Baker and the rest of the Browns look at OBJ as that celebrity. He's the celebrity guy. He's in the Drake video. He's got the Nike contracts and stuff like that. He's the larger than life guy. And you can't have that guy be he caught 3 balls for 46 yards. He's got to score touchdowns. He's got to do that stuff to really ignite the offense.
Now let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Do you, and this might be where you're going, and I'll be quick. Who on our team at the wide receiver position is a defensive coordinator going, oh man, the one we always have to make sure that this guy's accounted for? And now we don't. Now I don't think we have that guy.
Yeah, we don't. We definitely don't. But not every team has that guy either.
True, very true.
And the teams that do have him, because I don't think the Ravens have that guy. Right? They just have a bunch of guys that are above average. Who, when you have a running game that is really good, it opens up that. right? But we have to be able to establish the run and get that thing going. And if they're going to put 8 guys in the box, then we have to be able to use the play action to open up those guys and give them a little bit of extra space. But what I think the real question is, because we can't bring back OBJ. The real question is going to be is who's going to step up and become the next threat. Is Jarvis going to be able to live through that rib injury and become, Jarvis from 2018, 2019? Is because he hasn't scored a touchdown yet.
No, they asked him that today too, and
we're 8 games in.
Yeah, he was upset about it.
We're 8 games in, and Jarvis Landry is starting to feel like it. Like, I mean, statistically, like,
hey, he should have one that might have changed the complexion of the 16-6 Raiders loss. But
I mean, honestly, there are 2 balls that hit him in the hands of the end zone.
Yeah, period.
2 of them. Those are 2 touchdowns that we go from. We win that game. Now I get it, it was rainy, and I get it. He got smacked, but 2 balls hit him in the hands. Baker did his job, and people that are going out there being like, Baker's a bust or he's a backup quarterback. They don't. Baker's not the one dropping the ball, And Baker, I'd love to. They don't really show the stat. I can't find the stat, but who's the quarterback who's had the most dropped passes in the last 3 years? And I gotta believe he's got to be up there, way up there.
Probably is up there.
And that's not on him, And,
no, I agree with you.
And those are confidence killing. I mean,
he didn't do anything that game to help them lose. I agree with you.
I played the position. I remember in high school, and throwing balls that would hit guys in the hands, and just being like, do you know how hard it is to have a clean pocket that I can actually release the ball, and it comes out of my hand and it gets to you, and you have
drop it,
and in the open field, and then it's like, but then again, for every one of those drops, then you get the miracle catches, or you throw a little lateral or a screen pass and they run it for 80 yards. So it comes and goes. It goes both ways. But I think the real test is going to be is Harrison Bryant going to be is he just going to be a very serviceable tight end, or is he going to be somebody that they have to game plan around and threat? And is he a threat? Is Higgins going to finally come out to become a threat, not just a guy who's going to catch 2 passes and one of them's a touchdown, right? Is Hooper going to come back and go back to becoming Pro Bowl Hooper? Or did Hooper make the Pro Bowl because you have Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones out there who are, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on them, right? So who knows? I mean, I think this for me, if I'm any of the young guys that are out there, really anybody who can catch a pass on offense, I'm looking at, this is my opportunity, because OBJ was getting probably 8 to 10 targets a game. I'm guessing 8 to 10 targets per game, maybe some a little more, maybe some a little less, but somewhere around 10 targets a game. That's 10 plays. So now you're going to have an opportunity to get a couple of those and turn into, do we have a Josh Gordon on this team that nobody games plan, but that goes, holy crap, what happened? Who's this guy?
And I'm excited. I want to see Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I want to see. It sucks.
It was a big catch against the Bengals. It was a big catch.
Yeah, it was a big catch. And what really sucks about the whole thing is, and we talked about it before that game, is we were so excited to see, all right, who's going to step up, and then we wound up stepping into a rainy windstorm, and then had 8 possessions or whatever it was, and then we limped into our bye week. So I mean, we really don't know anything, really, do we? I don't think there's a sample size yet.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Peoples-Jones, I think Peoples-Jones is an NFL receiver, but I don't see him being a dominant, a guy who's just going to dominate games. I haven't seen that yet. I don't see the speed. I don't see the speed to say this guy's
pretty quick though.
Yeah, but I just haven't seen it yet. So let's see. Let's see if he can step up and be that guy.
Yeah. It'd be nice.
S. Zupan says, so if Baker just muddles along the rest of the season, is that enough to say, hey, he's not the dude? That'd be almost 3 years as a starter. Guys, I think we have to all sit back and go, do you want me to go through the names of the quarterbacks that we had in the Mangini, Shermer, Trubisky, Pettin, Hugh Jackson era before Baker Mayfield got here? Can we please have a quarterback who's Baker's 24? Can we please have a quarterback who we can continue to build upon? Look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr's still around, and the Raiders haven't given up on him. And now they have a legitimate shot at making it to the playoffs this year. I think we have to look at it. The only way that we kick Baker out of town is if we have a better option. Case Keenum is not a better option.
No,
he's just not, guys. He's not. He's a great guy to have as a backup quarterback. But if at 30-something years, 32 or whatever years old he is, he's not the guy, guys. And we need to have a quarterback that we build around, right?
And if you listen to Barry's press conference before, the week of the bye, and then just by the way Stefanski answers some of those questions, I truly think that what we think, and I've been very critical of him. I'll own that because I am critical of him, but I would almost, unless there was, unless Justin Fields somehow fell to them at pick 24 in the first round,
right?
And there's no way that you could look that gift horse in the face and say no, other than something crazy like that happening.
The only way that's happening is if he separates his hip like a Tua situation.
Correct. So
and then you're rolling the dice on that.
Yeah. So I think from what we've heard out of Barry and Stefanski, I think that unless they're lying to us, they feel like they're seeing progress. They feel like the more reps that he gets, he's going to feel more comfortable in the offense. And there's no question in my mind that they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. I don't think that it's even a question.
I agree.
He'll be the guy next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will, and I think that then this isn't the prove it year. Next year's the prove it year.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll see. I mean, I think we have our guy at quarterback. When you have a guy like that throwing all those touchdowns, now is Baker perfect? No. And Mike, you and I have been very critical of Baker. Not because we don't want him to be the guy, but just because it's the production on the field. We're looking at the play, we're looking at what's out there, and we're saying this is it or it's not. I mean, there was a lot. I wanted Trent Richardson to be the guy, but he clearly wasn't. But Trent Richardson wasn't breaking off 5 touchdown games.
No.
Right. So and game winners either. So guys, let's hold back judgment. Let's not be the media, and let's sit there and go, what is it? Because Baker's having a statistically very good year. Right now, he's having a statistically very good year, and he's being asked to hand the ball off a lot. So I don't think, and I think I was skeptical early with Stefanski on if he was a Baker believer or if he was just waiting for Baker to screw up so he could put in his guy Keenum. I don't think that's it. I think Stefanski does believe in Baker. I really do. And I think that Stefanski, when he came in here, he's going, he's a first-year head coach. And he's got a number 1 overall pick quarterback who's shown flashes of brilliance. And it is Stefanski's job to make him a better quarterback and put him in the position to be a better quarterback, because whether he likes it or not, he's either hooking his wagon to a 24 or 25-year-old kid who's done amazing things so far in the NFL, or is he going to go with a 33-year-old dude who has never even sniffed a Pro Bowl or any come close to it, and is he going to be the guy? And I think Stefanski's smart enough to know, if I want to have a long career as a coach, I got to go with the guy who's got the upside and who can be my guy here. Right? So that's what I think is going on with them.
And I mean, I mean, do they want him to be the guy? Absolutely. Do Was he their guy to start with? No. So, and you better believe that when both of them were hired, I am almost 100% positive that the Haslam said to the two of them, Baker's our guy, make it work. Now, does that mean in 2 years from now they still have to make it work? No. Once they give him, I like we just said, they'll give him next year, and he's either going to be the guy, or that'll be the point where, now Barry is going to be like, look, we tried, he's not the guy. Now we're going to go and we're going to figure out how to get our guy. But like we always say, I mean, and you just said it, Mike, we're critical of him, but it doesn't mean we don't want him to be good.
Right.
We want him to be great. We just need to see it now. That's all.
I don't even think we have a third string quarterback because Gilbert's gone. Right?
Yeah.
So we've got like a practice squad guy or something like that.
We have, what's his name? The guy from the Spiders.
I don't remember his name. I know who you're talking about, but I don't even know if he's on it.
Something or other.
Is he even on the active roster?
Localetta or no, I think he's just on the practice squad.
All right. So Case Keenum, guys. Case Keenum, let's look at his history. He's been a career, other than his Minnesota.
He's like a poor man's Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, not even. I mean, I would take Fitzpatrick Fitzpatrick. You could make an argument if you put him on the Browns right now, it would be an upgrade.
Yeah.
But
he's a poor man's version.
You look at him. His Houston first year didn't play anything. Second year plays 8 games, starts 8 games, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's his first year. Second year, and by the way, Baker's first year, there's 27 touchdowns. So 9-6. The next year after that, he plays 2 games, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Next year, he plays 6 games, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Next year, again, now his third team, the LA Rams, or I guess, were they in LA in 2016? Not sure. 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Then he goes to Minnesota, he lights it up, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Great year. Then he goes to Denver, gets paid, right? He goes and he makes a living there. He got paid a ton of money to go to Denver. 18 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Washington, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is not a guy that you want to say, you know what? Let's hand the ball to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there another honest if you think about backup quarterbacks? What backup quarterbacks are out there? Jameis? What backup quarterback is out there that's young that you would say, all right, if Baker's not the guy, who else can we put on our roster to possibly be the guy?
I would have to go with
Mariota's out there.
I don't know. I think that if he's not the guy, they find the guy through the draft. I don't think there's anybody out there,
and there's no guarantees in that.
No, there's not. But to your point, like looking around the league, there's nobody out there and here's a good point, Mike, to what you said and what we were just saying, is there's nobody out there right now. Let's say the season ends and they're like, oh, we want to upgrade, whatever. There's nobody out there that, to me, and you tell me, that you would want to start over Baker Mayfield. I can't think of anybody out there that backup wise. And I mean, I know Tim said, Fitzmagic, and I mean, he's going to be, walking off into the sunset, but we don't want a guy, we don't want a journeyman. We need somebody to grow with the team. And you know what, Mike, I as critical as we are, I have a strange suspicion as of late that the more comfortable he gets, that Baker's going to be the guy for the foreseeable future. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, the reality is, guys, I'm living in the real world. Yeah. And you have to look at the options that are available to you. Do you want Baker Mayfield or do you want Case Keenum? That's a really easy answer for me or any intelligent person. And then you go, okay, well, what else is available to you? The guys that were available last year that were backup, that were guys that we could have gone and got as backup quarterbacks that might have threatened and pushed Baker like legitimately to become a starting quarterback. You'd have the only ones I can think of would be Jameis or Mariota. The only two guys that were like, okay, these guys have legitimately had success in the NFL, high level success, maybe just weren't in the right positions. Tannehill came in there in Tennessee, lit it up, and we go, okay, well, he definitely won the job. And then you're not going to keep your job over when you have and Baker wouldn't have kept his job either if they would have been like, oh yeah, we're going to bring in Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady. Sorry, Baker, you're going to the bench, or we're getting rid of you.
Right.
He's going to be the next, and he might have gone to New Orleans and been a backup to Drew Brees for a year or two, and then ended up taking over for that position. But there's not a lot of options out there, guys. And if we look at what the draft is going to be, we're going to have a pick in the 20s. Right, so we're not going to have any chance at getting Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence unless we're going to give up like a Myles Garrett, or if we're willing to trade Nick Chubb. If we're willing to trade Nick Chubb and like 2 first rounders and like 2 second rounders, maybe have a chance at getting Trevor Lawrence. But then you're giving up you're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
No, you really are. Like as fans, we need Baker to be the guy. Like it has to happen, because you laid it out perfectly. Because if he's not, now all of a sudden, and you know what, Mike? I don't even know for where this team is and where they've been. I don't even know if let's say Baker's just mediocre, right? I don't think that you can I've been thinking about this lately. I don't think you could go away from him. And the reason why I say that, and you just touched upon it, is we cannot go backwards to where now we have to start sacrificing draft picks to get the quarterback spot. Like, we need to be able to build a squad with some consistency and then be able to go, oh, okay, we're so good. Oh, yeah, let's trade back into the first round and let's go get Lamar.
Right.
Like that's where we need to be as a team, I think, before we could start thinking about, going to get another quarterback. Because I do. As critical as I've been, as critical as you've been, I think we both understand that in order for this to finally be over the hump, and Kevin Stefanski, you and I are talking about Kevin Stefanski 10 years from now as the Browns coach, you can't go backwards again. You have to just hope that he is serviceable and just keep building, in my opinion.
Baker Mayfield has, in looking at the stats, 2.5 years, he has 64 touchdowns and 42 interceptions. Is it great? No. Is it Brian Hoyer, DeShone Kizer, Thad Lewis? I mean, is it? Come on, guys! Like,
the list goes.
And he's in the middle of his. He's been playing for 2.5 years, literally, at this point.
Yeah.
He broke the rookie touchdown passing record in less than a full season. All that tells me, guys, is he can play in this league. We have a quarterback that can play in this league, and we have to make a decision. We don't want to. It's funny. I was actually talking to. And this is just in my job. We're talking about a company, and we were sitting there like. So I work for a company that basically, if you engage with pretty much any major Fortune 500 company on social media, they're responding and they're doing all of their social media work through the software that my company provides. That's an easy way to tell what we do. It's a social media management platform, customer experience management. We do anything like that from a digital marketing and social media focused. That's what we do. And we're sitting there and we're talking to this company and we're like, they're exactly they should be using us. They're a $1 billion company. They're scaled. They should be with us. And And we're sitting there, we're like, why can't we? Why are they just not? Why are they pushing back so hard? When we've got Nike and Disney and Walmart and like the biggest companies out there are using our stuff, but these guys won't pull the trigger on us. And I sat there and I was like, guys, I've seen this my entire life and just about every job I've had, that if you are talking to people that have made bad decisions their entire life, whether it's on you know on software that they've bought in the past or jobs they've taken in the past or whatever it may be, people that have just been burned by bad decisions and then they're faced with a good decision, right? Not perfect, but a good decision. They don't know how to make that decision. They don't know how to make a good decision when it's laid out on a silver platter right in front. And I think that's what we're doing with Baker. We've been burned so bad with bad quarterbacks from, and I think arguably now that time has passed, we can all reflect and say Tim Couch was absolutely not a bust. No. He was just not a quarterback that could overcome being
wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, he was just an okay quarterback. He was a Derek Carr of his time who just didn't have that longevity. You
put him somewhere else, and
maybe
it's a shame. It's a shame. I think that he if he would have went anywhere else but us, I think he would have been a very good quarterback.
Right.
He had all the traits.
And he got hit so many times. He just got blown up. We didn't have a lot of talent at all until 2003. But we've been burned so many times. And again, first overall pick, you expect first overall production. And I think that's where we're starting to see a little bit of the frustration with Baker is you're a first overall pick, dude. We didn't draft you 22nd like Brady and Johnny. We drafted you first overall. And then you've got a guy who was picked 32nd who won an MVP. You have another guy who's picked fifth, who's now 7-1. And definitely has his team in the driver's seat. So where's our driver's seat guy with all the talent that we've got around you? So I understand where the fans are because I'm one of them, and I look at these games and watching them. But the reality is, I haven't seen enough in Baker to tell me that we need to bail on. We need to run as far away from this guy as possible. Like, I don't believe the things that Colin Cowherd says. We watch every single game that Baker's ever played, the good ones and the bad ones, and all I see, guys, is a young quarterback who is developing. And imagine if we have on our hands a potential Drew Brees, and we're bailing on him because we just didn't give him the time to develop because we were in such a hurry that we didn't have the patience to let him get there.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that if you think back to the Bengals game, and I know it's tough to. I mean, I throw the Raiders game in there. I mean, I know it was so minimal in the possessions, but even in that game, it sort of piggybacked off of the Bengals game, and the point that I'm making is, and I'd like to see it this week, even if it's bad weather and it's raining, I mean, we're still going to throw the ball a little bit, and I want to see it again. But I felt like in the Bengals game, and then carrying over to a couple of the possessions in the Raiders game, we were starting to see step up in the pocket Baker.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a very good sign, and it made me think over the past couple of weeks, maybe he's just broken, right? Maybe he can read the defense, right? Maybe, and don't get me wrong, we watched film. I watched all the film the first few weeks, and he was missing guys that were open and this, that, and the other thing, but maybe again, I go back to that. Maybe he's just broken, and Stefanski is fixing him, and he's starting to get it a little bit, and he's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, and he's starting to step up into the pocket now, and maybe there is some maturation there. So maybe this is what we'll see now, in the second half of the year. And if that is the case, then I think the clock is reset. I think, and then now you're seeing the guy that we should have had with a competent coach and a competent GM in terms of building a team and knowing what they have to do to surround him. I mean, think about last year. I mean, the year before, you go out and you draft a quarterback one,
Mhm.
and then you get him no offensive line help.
Yeah.
Zero.
How
Zero.
many
You
times?
actually
How many
took
times?
you took a guy away, right?
How many times does that happen in the NFL? Well, taking a guy away that's the amazing thing, right?
Yeah.
And
And took a guy away.
how many times do teams do that where they go, we're not going to set the foundation. We're just going to start building the house. And we want the leather couch and the big screen TV, but we're putting it on dirt instead of laying a solid foundation.
Excellent analogy.
And
Yeah.
you know what? I'm looking at Baker's Wikipedia page, and two things stand out to me. Number one, I've said it before and I will say it again. The dumbest freaking thing that we do is the no stripes on the helmet in preseason. These guys are professional football players. They don't need to be motivated with high school. I get it in high school,
Yeah.
right? I get it. In the pros, that's a Hugh Jackson loser era tactic. It has not gotten us over. Nobody's gone, you know what? What was the one thing? You know what? I really wanted to play with a stripe on my helmet.
I wanted to earn my stripe.
It's the dumbest thing ever, number one. And number two, the most iconic thing where it all starts for most Browns fans is no matter what, no matter how ugly those uniforms were in the Hugh Jackson, Mike Pettin era, we always had the helmet. The helmet remained constant. Even though the face mask changes color, it doesn't matter. We had the helmet. And for them for this ownership to take the stripe off the damn helmet for us in preseason, that's the one thing that I liked about not having a preseason this year is I didn't have to see the bald orange helmet.
And I wonder if that's if we'll ever see that again. I wonder if they'll, if, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because we didn't see it. We saw it with Freddie. Freddie kept it.
Yeah, Freddie kept it. I wonder if it'll die with Stefanski.
I gotta hope it will. I'm gonna send a message.
You hate it.
I literally
You hate it. You gotta let them know.
And you know why I hate it? Because every other team gets to go into with their real uniforms in the preseason and be professional football players, but we you sit there and you go, sometimes there's big moments in preseason, like when Sheehy ran for that touchdown.
Yep.
The punt return, that was awesome. But it was just like, oh, there wasn't a stripe on the helmet, so it was he didn't get to even feel like it was a real thing, because and I don't think he really cared all that much. But the optics of it is so bad. I don't want to go too much off on a tangent. There's a picture of Baker without the stripe, and it pisses me off. And I really hope that he does that Stefanski takes it away.
I gotta write this down. Stripe on helmet.
Stripe on helmet
Preseason.
pisses Mike off.
Yeah, I'm gonna tweet this to JW.
Yeah, send it. Just text him and be like,
I'll send it in the DM.
It pisses me off. Send it to Joe. Let's make it a thing. Let's just really start campaigning for the stripe in preseason. Although I don't know if we're gonna have preseason games anymore.
No,
I think the Players Association might be like, look, guys, why? They're free games. People get hurt. Makes it so we can't earn money. We've proven that you can play football without them. So screw it. We're not going to do it.
We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I do agree with Kid Wilson, and if his question is because he thinks it's corny, I don't know if I necessarily think that it's corny, but what I do think is I don't like the rotation of captains. I think that you naturally have leaders on your team. Like you take someone like Jarvis, for example. Jarvis really isn't a rah-rah kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Jarvis with a C, but I think that like Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, these are guys that should have the C on their jersey until, you know, proven otherwise in terms Baker's your guy, right? So the quarterback, that's the straw that stirs the drink. So for me, they I look at him when he's on the field and he's under center and I don't see the C on there and I'm like, come on. Every quarterback in the league has a C, right? Even Joe Burrow has a C.
Yeah.
It's just understood you're the leader of the team. So
Right.
I don't like the whole
Rotating C.
yeah, I mean Sandejo is not a captain. Okay? He's not a rah-rah guy.
No.
He's not getting anybody excited. To me, maybe Mike, hear me out. And you guys tell me what you think. Kid Wilson, you asked the question. Is the rotation of captains equal to preseason no helmet? Is that Stefanski's version of what
It's on
gets
the
you
same
irritated,
level.
Mike? Right?
Yeah, it's absolutely on that same level. It's like, guys, I mean, these are corny. Kid Wilson, I agree with you. It is a corny tactic that these are grown men. These are either men that are paid millions of dollars, or they're men that are trying to earn the millions of dollars. This isn't college where you're like, you're playing on scholarship and you're just, what you need that extra weird sort of motivation or anything like that. And I think you talked about it in the past. It takes away from what it is to be the captain.
I agree.
And you know what? If they want to, if somebody else was the offensive team captain, like if it wasn't Baker, if the team voted and it was Jarvis, then give Jarvis the C.
And the thing too, though,
period.
is yeah, and if you, I literally sit here and I'm I'm working and I got my phone next to me and Periscope, boom, up Stefanski presser, up Baker presser, put my buds in, whatever. I have yet to hear a player press conference that when they don't talk about Baker, the first thing out of their mouth is always this: Baker is the leader of our team. They all say it, from OBJ to Jarvis to whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they talk about Baker, the first thing always out of their mouth is he's the leader of the team. So if your guys think that you're the leader of the team, and we know that he's the vocal guy and the leader of the team, give him the damn C. Right? Miles is the heart and soul of the defense. He's the leader of the defense. There's no question about that. And they always talk about Baker and Miles, right? Those two were brought in as the cornerstones for the franchise. They're leaders. Give them the C. Give whoever else you want the other ones, and be done with it. This whole rotation of the captain thing is. Who knew that this was such a sore spot with me? That here we are, and now I'm mad about it. Just give me the C.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think these corny tactics, like it just reeks of weakness. Like it's a weak way to motivate grown men.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing that I really wanted to talk about. If you go to Baker Mayfield's Wikipedia page, he's got accolades in college and the NFL, like 25 bullet points long. Browns franchise records: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 different Browns franchise records.
I have this. I just haven't put it on my wall.
Probably because he's got that ugly jersey on.
Do you see what it is, though?
It says
Baker. That's a piece of one of the game balls from his his touchdown. One of his record-setting, what was it, 27 touchdowns he had that year? Yeah, 27.
It's a piece of one of the balls?
That's a piece of one of the balls. And it's funny because I got the piece. It says good. It's Goodell's signature.
Oh, wow.
So this is 68 of 500. But yeah, when it came out right after after the season ended, I was like, oh, I got to get that. I just
That's
haven't hung
pretty
it up
cool.
yet. But yeah, but it's pretty cool. But
That's pretty cool. Yeah. My point is to bring up all these franchise record stuff is like, guys. I don't know. Like, yes, did he have a down year last year? Yes. Any quarterback would have had a down year with Freddie Kitchens last year. Sorry, it is what it is, right? But he is definitely rebounding this year. And I think if we're all looking to say, if we're Xander, take care, man. If we're all looking for the dominant guy who's going to take over and be, that guy that you have to respect every play. I mean, guys, what team has that? The LA Rams, the Goff, is he that guy? He has his ups and downs.
I mean, that's a great point.
I think just if you give me a team, I'll give you that. Now you've got the other guys. Those guys who've been consistent for the last 10, 15 years with Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Yeah, I'll give you that. Those are the guys, but those are Hall of Famers. Okay, those are guys that are in the Hall. They're going to be Hall of Famers, and you don't. Yep. Other than Tom Brady, who came down to Florida because he wanted warm weather and no state income tax, and basically make any decision that he wants. But
right.
I will tell you guys, like and I've seen it historically, it's very rare that a guy like that who has accomplished everything you can possibly accomplish goes to another team and does it again.
Yeah.
It's very rare that happens. Now they've got a shot, but this isn't. I don't think the Buccaneers right now are scaring anyone like the Patriots used to scare people.
And he was dreadful the other night.
Yeah,
he had 2 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, but Tom Brady again for a lot of his career was a guy that you wouldn't touch in fantasy. Nope. It wasn't until he got Randy Moss that it was like, oh, this guy can actually put up points. Okay, right? Because he was just managed, and they won the defense.
Yeah, I mean, you think about when Brady won Super Bowls. I mean, I guarantee you that. I mean, I'm having a hard time thinking about. Like, I can visualize some of the receivers he had when he won those Super Bowls early on, or
Troy Brown.
Yeah, like that era. Like, besides him, like, who else did they have? Like, the more to date, obviously the Edelmans and Gronk and the other dude the
Hernandez,
the other slot guy that was
Wes Welker.
But you go back to the early days. Like, I'm surprised you pulled Troy Brown out.
Yeah, he's the only one.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would have been able to be quite honest with you. Once you said it, I thought, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Troy Brown, yeah.
But without you saying that, I have no freaking clue.
Yeah, he just didn't have, and then name running backs.
Yeah, it's another thing.
I mean,
Deion Branch. Yep, that's one I remember now.
Yeah, but Deion Branch, okay.
But you would never know it.
Nobody
unless you said it.
Nobody. He's not scaring anybody.
No,
he's okay. He's just okay. And that's the thing. But I think that's another. People want we as fans want the Browns to be good because it's like it's just we want to be happy, and we've been sad for so long, and then we have the opportunity to, and we look at one guy who touches the ball all the time who might make a mistake here and there, and he's taking away our happiness. And we don't want to be made like, I don't know about you. I mean, you're in Delaware, right. So you're in Delaware. I'm in Florida, and I'm known as the Browns fan. You're probably known as the Browns fan in your area as well.
I mean, I live in the middle of Ravens Steeler. My one neighbor is a Steeler fan. I got Ravens fans down the street.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like
we want to be happy.
I mean, I would get into arguments with the guy in the liquor store over like some of the teams that were like garbage that I knew better. But we're gonna beat you this year, whatever. And then I was embarrassed. I had to go to a different liquor store for like 7 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah,
I mean, you're right.
We have to be patient and realize that Kevin Stefanski has not been the coach the last 10 years. This is his first year.
Yeah.
Baker has not been the quarterback that has broken our heart. And let's not be the people that have made bad decisions and been burned so bad that we're willing to burn it again just because he's not giving us the happiness. Guys, we're 5-3. We are better than over half the NFL. So over half the NFL, they're not. If we just look at this year, right, and all that tells me is we have the ability to have a good next 5+ years. Right? If every year, Mike, for the next 5 years, you could be 5-3 or better at the middle at the eighth at the ninth week of the season, would you take it?
I'm all in.
Yeah. If you would have said, Mike, you're gonna be 5-3 at the midpoint of the season, are you gonna take it? Well, yeah, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I mean that's 5 Mondays that I drank out of my Victory Monday mug.
5, man.
5.
And we have the opportunity to have more because we're gonna win games. We're a much better team than that played against the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Raiders. We are a much better team, and we're a healthier team now going into the softer. We have a soft middle patch. We're going to have a couple dangerous games with the Ravens and the Titans. We're going to get soft again, and then we're going to have another really really heavy game at the very end of the season. But guys, I think we have 5 more wins on the schedule. I think we can beat the Texans, the Jags, the Eagles, the Jets, and the Giants. Those are our 5 wins. That allows us to lose to the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Titans. That's 6. That's 6-10. Or I'm sorry, 10-6. That's 10-6. Right there, 10-6, and that's a playoff. That is with 3 wild cards. That is a wild card. There's not going to be 3 teams that are going to go 10-6, and be in a wild card position, right? You're going to have your 9-7s. You're going to have your 8-8s and your 7-9s. Right? If we go 10-6, we're making the playoffs, and that's what it's going to take. But we have to beat the game. We have to beat the teams that we should beat on paper in order to earn that. And then when we earn that, we'll earn the respect from the media. We'll earn the respect from the rest of the league. But we haven't earned it yet.
Nope. And it's funny too because once you just got to punch the ticket, right? I mean, you look at that Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, and I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, so don't everybody
right.
get too excited or angry at me. But if you look back at that year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I mean, nobody was expecting that. I mean, especially they Wentz got hurt, Foles took over, he played.
They just got hot. They just got hot at the right time.
Yeah, and they made the playoffs, and nobody thought that was going to be their year. I mean, I thought they were going to lose to the Falcons that first playoff game. But the point being is, you just got to punch the ticket, and then you know what? Let's say we punch the ticket and we get our doors blown off. Okay, so be it. It's a learning experience, or you win the game. But I think you got to get there because you have to. These guys need to know that it's a possibility, and in no way, shape, or form am I comparing this Cleveland Browns team to the '91 Cowboys, but the year before the Cowboys made the playoffs and then or I'm sorry, won the Super Bowl. I think it was maybe the Lions that they played in the first round the year before, and they just got royally freaking embarrassed. But they got a taste of it, and then that next year, they went on to do something special. So
yeah,
I think it's a very, very, very important step. Will I be uber disappointed if they don't make the playoffs? No. If we finished 9-7 and came up short, it was still a successful year for what we were accustomed to seeing. But I really think
it's a winning season.
And it's a winning season. But I really think for this franchise to make a statement and provide some confidence to the guys in the locker room, I think that getting a wild card spot would really, really win, lose, or draw. It doesn't matter. Just getting there, I really feel would be a big boost to the
Well,
organization.
if you look at the first half of the season, we had 4 games against teams that we should beat. We had the 2 gifts against the from the schedule gods against the Bengals. It's 1 and 2. Yep. We had the Redskins, 3. We had the Cowboys, which were a pretty bad. I mean, talent-wise, they got the talent, but they're a bad defense. The defense, there's no talent on defense. So we ran over the Cowboys as well. And then for the one game that put us over the edge was the Colts game, who are a good team. Okay? So now, going into the second half of the season, we have to take care of 4. We need to win 4 games against teams that we should. So the Jets and the Giants, the Jaguars, that's 3. Then you've got the Eagles and the Texans, right? So Eagles and Texans, that's 5 right there.
Yep.
Eagles, Texans, Jags, Jets, Giants, 5. That's your 10 wins. Then if we can can sneak one extra one, let's say maybe we play the Ravens really tough at home, or maybe when the Steelers come, they're resting players for the playoffs, or maybe and if the Steelers are resting players for the playoffs, because if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have to play, Ben Roethlisberger ain't playing.
No.
At this point, they're not going to risk it because this could be it. This could be it for him, and he's already been shaky this year. So they're going to rest him if they have to. Not that I'm saying that I want us to play against a weaker, team, but God, I mean, they played against us in weaker teams, right? And they beat us up. So let's say we have a better chance to beat the Steelers at home without Ben. Let's say that we end up, putting our daddy pants on and actually giving the Ravens a good game and not being intimidated by them, like when we went to their stadium last year. Let's just say these things happen. There could be 6. There could be 6.
But it all starts.
But it's one game at a time, and we have to take care of the Texans. That is the start. That is the new test. Is can we beat a 2-6 Texans team at home?
Yeah, because if they don't win that game, and I said it earlier in the show, if they don't win this game,
we're not a playoff team.
It could spiral pretty quickly.
If we don't win this, if we don't beat the 2-6, because then again, it's now we're getting further and further behind the 8 ball. Because now we can't. Now we don't have another mulligan. We have to rattle off the Jags, the Eagles.
And then you're right. And like we said, then that Eagles team comes in, and now we're still sulking, and those guys are. I mean, even though they're 3-4-1 right now,
they control their own destiny though.
Yeah, they could win this week, and they're coming into our place 4-4-1, leading their division, and they're healthy. So yeah, I mean,
but again, then it makes it so we only have, on paper, we only have four teams that we can beat, that we should be able to beat, which is the Eagles, the Jags, the Jets, and the Giants. It's 4. We need 5. We need 5 wins. So then we have to beat the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Titans. Right? Yeah. I think the Titans are a beatable team. I wouldn't be surprised if we beat the Texans, lose to the Eagles, beat the Jags, and then beat the Titans.
And you know what? I would be okay with that, but if we could just flip-flop it to lose one of those other ones and win the Eagles game so I could laugh at all my neighbors, that would be great.
That'd be great. Well, I mean, I think we definitely match up from a talent perspective. We need to scheme better on defense. We need to execute on defense, and we need to execute on offense. We need to execute. If we execute to our talent level, we should beat the Eagles, the Texans, the Jags. I mean, we should beat these teams if we just execute to our skill level, right? And that's where the coaching comes in.
Yeah, and the funny part is, I'm not. Even though earlier we're like, oh, no OBJ, so they're not going to be rolling coverage that way, and they can concentrate more on the run, what have you. I'm not even worried about the offense. It's the defense. It's the defense is the Achilles heel.
It's a damn defense.
It really is, because if we had, and I mean that's the whole point, to have a good team on both sides of the ball. But even if we had last year's defense, I'd feel so good right now. I'd be like, oh yeah, we'll take care of the Texans, we'll take care of the Eagles. The Jaguars have that, that solid running back, but we'll be fine, not worried about it. You know what I mean? Like that's how I would be
We
rattling
just
these
have
off.
we just have bigger holes now.
Yeah. So
And
so now you're like, I mean, and especially like I look at the Eagles game, like Ertz is going to be back, or at least he's scheduled. That was the game they said he was going to be back. And I mean, um, their receiver is going to be healthy, Alshon Jeffrey.
yeah,
So you got the rookie, you got Jeffrey, you got Ertz coming back, you got Miles Sanders
they're
in the
they're
backfield.
gonna be dangerous. And this
So
isn't a team that gives up. They didn't give
no,
up against the Steelers, so they're
no.
not going to give
So
up against us.
no, and could you imagine? I mean, think of like Ertz and company just running roughshod on the middle of our defense. Like that's what
Yes,
scares me,
I can
guys. That's what
absolutely think
scares
that.
me is the defense.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that where we're going with this team, because I thank God we had the Bengals twice early in the season,
Yeah,
because I think a lot of teams are going to be really not going to be happy about playing the Bengals the second half of the season. Thank God we got past them.
I agree.
Right? I wouldn't be surprised if they could shock the Steelers.
It could happen.
And that if that happens, if they beat the Steelers, right? If they beat the Steelers, then we're looking at, holy shit, we have to retool this defense. We can't wait. We have to retool this defense now, meaning like, because we're not going to be able to compete. There's going to be 3 teams in our division that we're going to struggle to compete with because we got manhandled by the Steelers and the Ravens. We're not on their level right now, right? And but to see how quickly the Bengals are getting up to our level is frightening. Yeah. And if we don't retool this defense,
Could be
very
ugly.
quickly we could go right back into the gutter in the AFC North. And it just, for the Bengals, it just took one guy. It took one dude to be able, and quality play around him. And the reason why they have the record they have is because they don't have a good defense either.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the race. The race is going to be who can retool their defense fast. Because I still firmly believe you take Ben Roethlisberger off the Steelers, they're not an 8-0 team.
No,
they're
I agree.
Just not. He's playing.
No matter how good the defense is, I agree.
He's playing backyard football, guys. He is sitting there at this level, in this time in Ben Roethlisberger's career. He is a master of the art of being an NFL quarterback. He has mastered it, just like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Late in his career, Brett Favre. These are guys who have mastered it. And the dude has been with one team and 2 coaches his entire career and has had success up and down. Ben Roethlisberger, for everybody who counted him out, me included, he's making us eat our words this year. But the second he's gone, unless they fall ass backwards into a Lamar Jackson like the freaking Ravens did, I think they're going to be in a world of pain if they're going to go with guys like Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph or whatever they're going to happen to find at way late in the draft, or maybe they bring in a veteran QB somewhere down the road with them. Who knows? But they're going to be in that flux. Yeah. Right? They've had consistency for so long, and I can't wait for that. I keep saying I want to see the Bubby Brister years come back. The Cordell years. I want to see those years come back where the Steelers just feel pain. It just goes to show like how important that quarterback position is. So I understand, we were talking a long time about this thing with Baker. I understand everybody's passion about this position and who Baker is, and a little bit of his maturity issues. And so, dude, they handed this kid again who followed legends in high school. He ends up going to college, walking on, and earning every scrap of it. And they took that kid and they handed him, with one sweep of the pen, $22 million of just signing bonus. Not even a game check, just signing bonus, right? They handed him that. And when I was 25, if somebody would have handed me $22 million, I would have lost my damn mind as well. So like, let's give him a second. Let's let him mature a little bit. He's matured a lot more in a very quick period of time, and I think now that you have a professional football coach and an intelligent guy coaching him, I think that we'll see, but we're in a position to see him really mature and develop. But Mike, I'll give you the final words here because we've been at it now for 2 hours and 51 minutes. So this is a new Mike's Wednesday record. It's probably because we didn't remember when we first started. And I'm tired. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it this long.
I know. Here we are.
My wife went to bed an hour ago. So, we're coming up on the 3-hour mark. I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody in chat. We've been watching the chat the entire time. I got to tell you how much I appreciate you guys, because this isn't a pregame show. This isn't a postgame show when all the excitement about the Browns. This is a for all intents and purposes, because usually we do it on Wednesday, but this is a random day where Mike and I just get to shoot the shit for a couple hours and talk about the Browns and whatever else we may be talking about. I don't think we really went off tangent too much today.
No.
No coffee, no music, nothing crazy today. But I just want to say thank you about how much I appreciate it, because this has kind of been for me a little bit of a dream, to have a community of Browns fans that we can talk about it and we can see other people getting into it. And the fact that you guys at least are willing to listen to what we have to say, whether you agree with it or not. Kid Wilson, I appreciate it, man. I really, really do. Yeah. Everybody out there in chat today, everybody who comes back to say, I can't name you all, but you guys know who you are. I just want to say how much I appreciate it, guys. So really, really thank you very, very much.
Yeah, no, to echo your thoughts, I look forward to this every Wednesday, and I enjoy being able to talk Browns with Mike. But I got to tell you guys, like, I get so excited for Wednesday. Like I enjoy. First and foremost, I'm flattered that you guys are in the chat and listening to us and interacting with us, and it just means a ton. And I can't tell you how much I enjoy being able to have this Wednesday show with Mike and to be able to chat with you guys and interact with you guys. It's really awesome, and I can't thank you guys, like Mike said, enough. So as soon as we hit the button and we're off air, you could ask Mike. Like I'm texting him the next day, already looking forward to next Wednesday. So.
It's funny because we end up like sometimes going off air and then we'll talk for like another 10 minutes and we're like we should stop. Like this is going on too long. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a cool community. I really appreciate everybody. And Tim Ott was saying it feels like sitting in a bar with buds, and I'm like, hey, I feel the same way. It's tough to have more than two people on at any given time, and just in the course of the art of the conversation, right? Yeah. But it is. Oh, you got your homage shirt today? Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. That's great. It's great, dude. The homage people have been really cool. I know that sometimes they take a little bit of time. I owe somebody a t-shirt from the last one. I don't think I've gotten back to them. I've had a busy week at work this week, but everybody gets their t-shirts. Don't worry, you'll get them. And we also have new merch on browniepostgame.com. If you go to browniepostgame.com, you can get a shirt, and they're good shirts. They're American apparel. They're really good. I try to make them as cheap as possible. I'm not really making profit off of them. I'm just trying to put them up there because the website allows us to do it. So had a couple. There's some funny shirts up there. You can get the Blocked by MKC, Blocked by Tony Grossi. You can get the Odell Beckham t-shirt from the Drake video. That's up there. You can get the Brownie post-game victory Monday mug. I don't even have that one yet. So a lot of cool stuff on there. Also, I guess I could probably talk about it at this point because it's an official thing that I'm committed to do. We're doing a charity. I'm going to be streaming all day on December 4th. I'll be gaming all day. So I don't know if I'm going to do it on this channel or if I'm going to do it on Twitch. I'll probably just do it on Twitch because I'll tell everybody here, but you'll have to come over to Twitch to see me because we're going to be gaming. And what we're gonna do is it's a charity to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital, and which is
Very cool.
one of the best charities that you can give money to. I mean,
Yeah.
it is one of the coolest things. And I'm going to have a link for it that I'm going to share with everybody. And I specifically chose December 4th because that's the week before the Titans game. So how cool would it be to raise money for St. Jude, which is a hospital in Memphis, Tennessee,
Yeah.
that it does such good things for families and with kids that are dealing with life-threatening and debilitating diseases and stuff. So I'm doing this with my company, the company I work for, and we're setting a goal to raise $10,000 for St. Jude, who also happens to be a client, a Sprinkler client. So we're going to hand them a check that we're raising money, and they're going to probably just hand us back the check for our software, but at least we get to offset that a little bit by saying like, hey, we appreciate you guys. So I'm gonna post that out. I'll put it up on Twitter. I'm gonna try to get all the Browns influencers, everybody to get behind it as well, because again, it's that Tennessee game week. So I would love to do that, and so that's something coming up in December that I'm getting excited about. So some cool stuff coming up, and we'll be live. So we're gonna go live again this weekend. It's a 1:00 game, so we'll be live at 11 a.m. My dad and I will be live, and then the post-game show as well. And then next week, on Tuesday, I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of a website called efuse.com, which efuse is a social media website for gaming, focused only like specifically for games. So it's like the Facebook, Twitter. It's actually more of like the LinkedIn, I would say, for gaming. It's called efuse.com. And I'm going to be interviewing the CEO. Him and his team are based out of they're all Ohio State grads, so that's the meat of their leadership teams from Ohio State, and young guys and who made this awesome website. And obviously, you guys know I'm into gaming. I'm into the Browns, my two passions in life. So anytime I get to marry those two things together, I'm all in. So we'll have that interview coming up with Matt, who's the CEO of eFuse. So some cool stuff going on, guys. So appreciate it. Again, thank you so much, everybody. I will see you Sunday. And Mike, any parting words from you?
No, just it's an important one, and I hope that that we're speaking some good news on come next Wednesday. So go Browns.
All right, guys, go Browns.
See you guys.
See ya.